Hi, Al. How's it going? Today I thought I would try a concept I've been thinking about for a while, and I'm calling it the CNC Doctor. Basically, what that means is that I'm here to help you with your CNC problems, and that means that if you have anything that you have been looking to troubleshoot on your machine, or if you have any other questions you'd like to ask me about the process of maybe setting up your machine or using gSender in particular. I have it open here as well. I'm going to be going over those today. I also am planning on, if there aren't any questions immediately, showing off features in gSender, maybe things that you might not know exist, things that you can try out, or things about your machine that you might not know exist. If things are a bit rusty today, forgive me. I have not done this in a very long time, and I'm sure you guys can understand that it's been very busy here for us at CNC Labs as we've been working towards the holidays, getting more machines out, and among other things. And so this was something that I had on my docket list for probably 2 months now, and didn't actually think I'd be able to get it done on time for the end of the year. But I was kind of able to put a couple things together, and now here we are. So if you have any feedback on the live stream, maybe if the audio is too loud, maybe if the video is not coming through, just let me know, and I can change it on the fly. And then it's something that can always be worked on over time if these sessions are useful to anyone. I see we've got some people joining us already. Rick, Jerry, Livin' Naughty, 1 Inch Off, Kleitel. That's a really cool name for Norway. That seems like a very Norwegian name. Thank you all for joining so far. I hope you're all doing well. 1 Inch Off says he's nice and warm, 78 degrees in Florida. That's definitely not what it's like here. It's been snowing a lot, as you can expect. Obviously, we're in southern Ontario, so it can get even snowier if you go further north. But it's nothing to sneeze at either. Now, because I'm kind of doing this on the fly, if no one has any immediate issues that they'd like to come to me with, that's fine. I've got lots of stuff I can talk about. But if I'm kind of rambling on and more people are joining, please let people in the chat know that they can ask questions if you see any newcomers, and we'll get to answering them. I'm actually going to make it a bit of a fun game because as a maybe not a doctor, but maybe a teacher would do, I might, if a question gets asked, I might actually pose it to you guys to see if perhaps you watching at home might be able to know the answer before I go and answer it, and that might result in some cool learning perhaps. So as you guys know, I'm the co-founder of CNC Labs, and so I've been working with these machines. I've got a long mill Mark II behind me. Well, technically a Mark 2.5 behind me. Actually, I'll show you a quick wide shot on this one. This video feed is not going to look as nice. Here we are. So this is the wider background view of my office area here. And my team is actually, I've got some people on my team that are sick and some that are working from home. So it's kind of empty back here, but that creates a perfect environment for filming, which is great. But you can see I've got a nice Mark 2.5 with a bunch of different things on it behind me here. And that's what I can also use to show off any sort of tuning that might need helping. I will say up front, if there are questions about the alt mill, I might not be able to be as good at answering them because I was not as involved in the engineering of that machine, but I will still try my absolute best. And also, if it's related to CAD CAM software, it's not going to be as focused on CAD CAM software this type of session, because I want to make sure that I'm giving you guys the most in-depth information and correct information as possible. And those sorts of questions are better asked to people on our team, like Scott, for instance, who spends a lot more time making the projects and doing advanced stuff like that. Okay, so let's see. What is Kenny asking about? Hello, new people that have joined us. So submitted question in the forum. The question was, bring up the fact an M5 command is sent to the spindle on the alt mill when starting a program from a certain line of code, so it can cause issues. Well, what I'll do actually, I'm going to come back to this later. This is the new version of gSender we're working on. I want to show that to you. But I'll go open up the older version of gSender here so that I can point out to you where it would be best to be finding where that M5 is coming from. Let me just load up older version here. My computer is not liking me a whole lot right now because I am running lots of stuff on here, and I don't think my computer is exactly designed for something like this, but that's all right. We'll make it work. All right, let's bring it back. By the way, this is one of those cool things that you might not have seen before. Obviously, I don't actually have to do this maintenance because I just have a test machine that I don't use for cutting. But this is something gSender has a feature for, where it keeps track of how long you've been running the machine for. And once it hits certain time frames, and you can set these time frames yourself, but there are some default time frames that are set, it can remind you to do maintenance on your machine. Now, this is really great because sometimes people will forget to do maintenance on their machines, and it is important to do it because otherwise, you can lose the accuracy, for instance, of your machine over time, or you can have a failure in the middle of an important job you might be doing. And just to remind you guys, we do have documentation on all this stuff. And so in particular, if I'm going to, well, I'm showing you the page, but I'll show you how to get to this page just for anyone who might not know. If you're on our main website here and you go into our resources, and in this case, it's for the long mill because that's the machine I have set up, you're going to see that I can go to the long mill Mark II resources here. And then you're just going to scroll down, and you can think about this as the information is like in order of the order that you would use it when you got your machine. So the stuff up here is like the introductory stuff where you're sort of learning and then you're assembling. And then the handbook is kind of where you want to go for anything that is like something you'd refer back to on a more regular basis. And you can see in the handbook, there's a maintenance page. And so this is where the maintenance is. And this shows you how to clean everything and tune it and lubricate things and stuff like that. So anyway, that was a bit of a tangent there. Okay, so here I am back on the machine in gSender, and I'm going to, you don't need to be connected to your machine for this, but I'm just going to connect to the machine behind me. And so you're saying that there's kind of like an errant M5 command that's popping up. So the first thing that I would do is if you have so you're saying this is happening when you start a program from a certain line of code. Basically what I would do is I would go to the settings, to the program events, and just double check that you don't have, like it's fine to have an M5 command on the stop or on the pause, but if you have an M5 under start or under resume, then that will send an M5 command when you go to resume a job. So I would check that. The other thing is that if it's not having an M5 command being run when you just run the job normally, like I'll just bring in a job here. And if you're just starting the job normally and it's getting to that same line and it's not having the M5 command, then I think what I would recommend doing at that point is do your start from line, run it at the line, and then have it hit the M5 command, like basically replicate the issue that you're having. And once that happens, just stop the job, go to this calibrate tool here and click this button for the diagnostic file. And basically what this does is it takes a snapshot for us of your whole setup, where you have, it'll show us the file that you're running, it'll show us the settings you have in gSender, what machine you have set up and everything like that. And that snapshot, if you can send it to us, we can find where that M5 might be coming from and help you out if you haven't already found it out yourself by that point. So hopefully that helps for you. We've got another question about connecting via Ethernet to, I presume, to the super long board. So I don't know if you want to tell me more, Jerry, about the specific issue you're having, about the Ethernet connection. But just to give some overview information in case you might not have done it already. On the super long board documentation, we don't go over the Ethernet setup initially, but we do go over it in the technical manual. The technical manual is the page that has the bulk of the information on setting things up. And so we'll go into here, and then I can already see it on the side here, but you can just scroll down if you want to scroll down. But you'll eventually get to the Ethernet setup section, which is here. So there's a couple like asterisks when it comes to setting up Ethernet on SLB. And what you will want to do is just give this a thorough read if you're going to go and set this up. It's important that, first of all, that your computer that you're using to connect over Ethernet is capable of making that connection. And also that you have the right hardware. So like an Ethernet cable or an Ethernet port, or sometimes you'll need to buy, like if you have an older PC, you'll have to buy a card to get a port on your computer for it. And that's all covered in this documentation. And then I would just advise you, just read carefully through all the steps. If you're on Windows, follow all the Windows steps. If you're on a Mac, we just put out new instructions for the Mac steps as well. And you'll just want to make sure you're putting in all these values. It's just a combination of going to the firmware tool here, and you go to the settings for setting up the Ethernet here. And these are like values that are being instructed to your board. And then you need to basically duplicate those values that are being instructed to your board over to your computer. You're going to go into your network settings, and you're going to put those into the network settings. This is going to be very computer dependent, so I can't give you specific instructions that is going to work across all devices. But you have to just, like something like a firewall or something might stop this from going through. So just keep that in mind. But on the whole, this should be able to cover everything you need to do. You put the values in, you double check the values in gSender, and then once it's set up and ready, I actually have a board next to me that isn't the board behind me that has Ethernet set up. And so you can see it appears in the drop down here, and I click it, and then now I'm connected to that board. And it's next to my desk just over here. So hopefully that helps any way that I can in terms of setting up the Ethernet connection. If you have any other questions, let me know. Kenny, you found it on the console, you'll submit the file. Great. That's exactly perfect. That'll help us figure out exactly what might be going on, because finding out where that M5 is coming from, and then if we can replicate it or something like that, that'll help us be able to figure out what might be going wrong on your end. Nice, 1 inch off. Yeah, you guys are doing great, helping each other out. When you're doing maintenance on your machine, you definitely you don't want to put wax on the rails necessarily. The wheels are going to roll. They're not going to. You don't want them to slide. I mean, I guess they can slide, but you want them to roll probably. But yeah, just using a dry lube, not anything too sticky to get more dust on it, is a good use for across the board for most of the motion system on the machine. Yeah. Another person, from the Netherlands, great. Wait, I didn't know, Eddie, I didn't know you're from the Netherlands. That's really cool. You learn something new every day. Okay, Jerry, so it works great for weeks, and then sometimes you can't find it. I see, okay. Yeah, I would need to know, I think, more about your setup. Like if, as Grant mentioned, actually, if you're using like a switch or something like that, you might be causing yourself issues there. That's not gonna help out your situation. If it's something that you are running a direct line from your computer to your board, and it seems to work fine, and then maybe you can try like wiggling some connectors around or something like that, and see if that causes any disruptions. Then that would definitely point to a hardware issue potentially on the board, or potentially on your computer Ethernet port. I would still recommend, if you have another Ethernet port to try on, maybe you could try it on another computer too. Just any simple checks you can make is good to do, leading up to figuring out what the problem might be. And then from there, you can kind of figure out like if it is a board problem specifically, in which case, of course, we'd cover it under the warranty and send you a replacement. But there's a lot of stuff that's pretty simple to check leading up to that before going through the process of having to swap out an entire board. So that's what I would recommend. Okay. Yeah, when people are talking about WD-40, it's a specific version of WD-40 that's a dry lube version. It's kind of, WD-40 really pigeonholed themselves there. I don't actually know the name of the parent company, but because everyone knows the term, when they hear WD-40, they just think of immediately of the regular can that people sell. But you gotta, yeah, it's kind of confusing in that way. All right, and also I will say, Eddie, I would be shocked if in the alt mill documentation there isn't also notes there on maintenance. Yes, there is. So you can find some stuff here too, right? And specifically for things like the ball screws on like the alt mill, for instance, there's actually fittings that you can put in and insert grease into using a grease gun. For the most part, that is going to take care of things for you, especially because on the alt mill design, the y-axes are more hidden out of the way, and the x-axis gantry is so high off the table. Definitely, if you're setting up that way, follow our guidance on this maintenance page here. Okay, so if any other people have questions in the meantime, I will wait for them to come in. and I'm going to show you some fun stuff. I think the first thing that I'll do is oh yeah, I think the first thing I'll do, let's come back to gSender here. And I'm going to show you, I think there was an earlier question about, is it possible to access gSender from two computers at the same time without it disconnecting the other session? Oh, okay. As of right now, is it possible? Huh. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure if I can specifically answer your question. To my knowledge, so basically they're asking about connecting multiple machines to control, or connecting multiple computers to control the same CNC. Using the remote mode setup, theoretically that should be possible to do that. And I'm just going to demonstrate that here really quick. So right now I'm connected to the machine behind me using gSender, and I'm just going to click this little antenna up here, turn on remote mode, and in this case I'm actually going to connect to my computer running gSender from my phone here. And you can see there's a little QR code up there. So first I'm just going to select an IP. And then if you want, you can just visit this web URL. But because I'm using my phone, I can just take a picture of it and visit that address. So I'm going to hit OK, and then it's going to have to restart the app. So I'm just going to restart it real quick here. And you'll notice it's asking me to give access. So I'm going to allow the access through so that any other device on this Wi-Fi can access it. And now you can see up here that it's turned on. And also, with it up and running, if you go and you click the text here, it'll actually copy the web address as well for you to use. Now, I hope I did this correctly. It's been a while since I've set this up. All right, one sec. Give you guys the cutting screen again. Do, 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 do. Ah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. I don't know if I just made a mistake there, but I just switched it to another IP and restarted the app again, and then rescanned it on my phone. And anyway, now you can see, oh, I've got gSender up on my phone here. So that's kind of cool because now I can, on my phone here, I'm going to try to do this while I'm showing you guys. Connect to the machine here. And then if I jog it, I don't know if you guys can hear, but it's jogging behind me. And this is connected, but also on the screen for my computer, it's also connected. So they're both connected at the same time. I can jog on the computer and I can jog on my phone. And if I wanted to as well, I can copy this web address and go into my web browser. Oops. Go back here. Copy? Question mark? Oh no. I think I found an issue here. That should be copying. All right. Noted to fix that. That was working at one point. So I'm just going to write down the number there. Just in a notepad off to the side. And I just typed it in here. And now you can see I have the same connection again. And I can connect. And I'm jogging there too. So that's technically like 3 devices now. I can jog in my browser. I can jog in gSender. And I can jog on my phone. So they're all jogging together. It could be possible there's some instances of issue. I know I think I've run into a circumstance before where if you try to connect like while the job is running, sometimes there can be an issue. So I would recommend that if you just want to be able to use the feature reliably, that you just connect all the devices that you want to connect before you start cutting anything. And hopefully that will reduce potential issues that you might run into. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. And I hope for other people that might not have used this feature before, that it will motivate them to give it a shot. So, okay, I'm going to answer a couple other questions here. Or I guess show off some other features that maybe some people don't know about gSender. And before I go and I show some of these off, and keep asking questions in the comments, I will get back to them. I'm planning on running this live stream for probably at least another 2 hours. So there's going to be plenty of time for you guys to see stuff and learn along the way. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you some fun stuff. Before I do this, I just want to say that the things I'm going to be showing you are all, I'm pretty sure every single thing that I can show you today is all documented in the gSender documentation. So I'm just going to show you again how you get to that in the first place. If you're on our main site, you can go to Resources, gSender, and that's going to take you here. This first page goes over how to go through the whole process of installing gSender. This second page is kind of like informative in terms of telling you the basic setup for how to use gSender. And then this third page kind of goes over the more basic features, I would say, on the layout, things that you're looking at, you know, how to jog, how to zero, how to do your movements. And then once you kind of get to the bottom of this page, you will have had enough information to do, I would say, like 80% of the things that a typical person would want to use gSender with. And then that's when you get to the additional features page, and this goes over so many other things. You can see how long the bar is on the side here. We've got things like shortcuts, because you can make it so that you can control your CNC with a keyboard, with a joystick. You've got how to set up for custom touch plates, turning on and off spindles, lasers, running macros, calibrating your machine with gSender's built-in calibration tools, reminders on maintenance, which I was talking about earlier, customizing your machine with the firmware tool, and custom injection Gcode, tool change handling, workspaces, using remote mode, which I just went over, configuring to use a rotary axis, and even way at the bottom of the page, we have macros that other members of our community have written. Right now, there's only a single one here, but if any other people have macros that they have created in gSender that they found to be useful and would like to share with others, you can always click this link here at the bottom of the page on the additional features page, and that's going to take you to our GitHub page where you can basically submit a comment to us about a macro that you've made, following the formatting here, and we can stick it on this page for you. Or if you're very familiar with GitHub, you can submit a pull request and we'll accept it. So I'm going to go over some of the stuff here, and then after that, I'm also going to show you guys some stuff in gSender Edge. Now, some people still don't know about gSender Edge and what it does, but the simple explanation of it, I made this kind of little flow chart here, is you can imagine that when we want to put new features into gSender, but we don't want to impact the experience of other people, we put it into, it's kind of like a mirrored version of gSender that has those new features in it that people can choose to use if they are interested in trying those features, and willing to have slightly less reliability potentially, because we're developing those new features. You don't know what might happen. But basically, the more people that we have giving us feedback on that mirrored version, the faster we can implement the fixes. And then it eventually gets to a point where the feature is working fully correctly. And then that's when we take all of that new stuff that we've been working on and we present it to everyone else to use. So now it's kind of on the main version. So the way we distinguish those two is we've got the main version of gSender and what we call the Edge version, because you're kind of riding on the edge of new developments. And so that's kind of what that flow chart shows. Now, as we come out with new Edge versions, you can see well, actually you can't see it, but you can install both of them separately and run them both separately and use settings and stuff separately on them. And there's a whole lot of new stuff we're working on for the new Edge version right now. So if you would like to try it out and give us some feedback, you can tell us even if you want to change a color on it or change where a box is or something like that, because it's in a position that there's still lots that can be changed. But we're basically rebuilding gSender from the ground up to use newer libraries, because the code base was getting a bit old, and we wanted to make sure that it kept running smoothly for the next decade to come. Some of the libraries it was running was almost 10 years old. So, and in that process, we're kind of trying to shift around some of the features in there to make things work better for you guys in your day-to-day of running your machines. And then just to round out talking about the documentation, we've got a page that you can go to collect information about an issue you might have run into and submit it to us, or to our community, or you can see some of the common problems that you might be running into and solutions to those problems. And then there's a page here as well that goes over when you're seeing errors, what those errors might mean, how you might be able to fix them, and some other useful commands for doing sort of advanced troubleshooting. Okay, that was a mouthful, wasn't it? Let's take a quick break from me talking to you and have another look at the chat here. Okay, so we've got some other people here and some existing people sticking around. Michael, awesome. Mine seemed to kick the other session. Yeah, give it a try. It could stop the job. I'm not sure if that's something that is possible for us to run so that it doesn't happen. But I would say for the time being, just try to have your devices connected in the remote session beforehand to avoid that happening. And in the long run, we'll look into seeing if it's possible to not have that happen. Because I do agree, it'd be nice to, if your job is running and maybe it's run longer than you expected or what have you, you can pull it up on your phone when you need to. Who else? I've ordered an alt mill with a monitor. Will the machine come already calibrated for gSender? So it's actually the other way around. gSender, even though we make it free for anyone, and we try to design it so that people can use it for other CNCs, we do put profiles into gSender so that by default it works very well with our machines. So the machine has been set up the way that it needs to be set up to work well no matter what. And then gSender's been set up in a way that you can configure it to work with your machine correctly. So you'll be all good to go. There's instructions if you want to prepare yourself for receiving your alt mill. We have documentation on all of our products. You can see up here. So if I just click the alt mill, you can literally, depending on how much time you have, you can literally just start at the front and keep clicking next and next and next and go through all the pages here. And it'll explain to you how you're going to be setting up your machine and how you're going to be connecting the electronics and then how you're going to be connecting to gSender to control it. So anything you're looking for, you'll be able to find there. If that can help you out in terms of preparation. But the good thing about gSender is that it can run on any newer hardware. We used to be able to support much older hardware, but then the infrastructure that we're using to build the software said that we're not supporting some of the older stuff anymore. So then we kind of had to, we couldn't really do anything about it, which is unfortunate. But we publish every single version of gSender. So if anyone is even running a super older version of hardware, you can always pick up an older version of gSender. It won't have as many features, but it'll still be able to run. Okay, there weren't too many questions that came in while I was speaking. Jerry, you're using a dongle, okay, and you have a new laptop that doesn't have a network. Okay, so you're using a USB-C to the Ethernet dongle on your computer to connect over Ethernet to your SLB. That makes sense. Yeah, I think what I mentioned prior, I would still apply to just do a little bit of troubleshooting on your end and otherwise reach out. Does anyone, before I kind of go and I talk about some other stuff, I'm going to put a question out there and you can think about this and then, get back to me in the chat. Does anyone have any, I guess, in-depth questions that maybe it's like a broader concept about CNCing that you might not understand? Maybe there's something about your machine where there is sometimes reliability that you're not seeing. Maybe you have questions about how the mechanics of our machines work, or maybe you have questions about how to compare one machine to another, perhaps. Any of those things I'm happy to dive into to answer for you. While those questions come in, I'm going to go show some other cool stuff. So I'm going to call this segment Pro Tips with Chris. And these are going to be things that probably the average person won't get a lot of benefit from, but maybe if you're a more long-time user, you will. So here's my first pro tip, and that is that let's say I am jogging my bit around and I want to set a 0, right? Of course, I can just 0 everything and now I'm at my corner. But let's say I don't want to ruin my material. So I don't actually want to bring my bit all the way down to touch the surface of the material because I'm worried about that. So instead, I just want to, like, let's say I want to use a piece of paper, like the paper zeroing technique, or let's say I want to use something a little bit thicker to offset it. So I'll like jog my bit. Let's say I'm jogging it down towards the material. And so I'm here, right? And let's say I know that I'm currently 5 millimeters above the material. I'm not touching it, but I know that I'm 5 millimeters above. Or let's say if I'm using a piece of paper, I know that I'm like 0.1 millimeters above the surface. Instead of zeroing the Z, I can actually set the current location as like an offset 0 to the final location I'm trying to get to by just clicking here. So if I know I'm 5 millimeters above, then I can just type 5 and hit enter. And that's it. Now I've effectively zeroed the Z-axis in this case, as if I did go another 5 millimeters downwards and set 0, but I didn't actually have to go there and set it. I just knew I was 5 millimeters above. Or let's say I was using the paper method and I knew I was 0.1 millimeters above the surface, then I could enter in 0.1. So that's my first tip. You can do this on any of the axes. You can just type this in and hit enter, and then that's where your bit will be. So that's pretty handy. My second pro tip, for anyone who has used the console for debugging or sending manual Gcode movements or anything like that, you might grow tired of always having to type your Gcode commands in. As I said, this is a bit more of an advanced thing, but hear me out on this. Let's say I'm trying to make a movement, then it's like, okay, well, let's say I want to move the x-axis. So now I have to specify that it's a movement like based on the current position, like not an absolute, but a relative movement. And then I have to specify that it's a G1 movement, not a rapid. And then I have to specify like a feed rate for it, let's say like 1,000. And then I have to specify that I want to move 1 millimeter. So it's like, okay, I have typed it all out, right? But now if I want to do that again, that's a lot to type out again. So actually, if you're clicked here and you press the up arrow, you can cycle through all the history of commands that you've sent in the console. Like this goes pretty far back. And so you can literally just, if you just want to do that movement command, I just press up and I hit enter again. And I press up and I hit enter again. Or let's say I wanted to move it in the Y, I just go up, change the Y, and then I hit enter again. This can save you a lot of time if you're doing debugging in the console or just doing some manual trial and error. Another cool one is people might not have used this before, but this allows the console to actually pop out into a separate window. This is pretty handy if you're trying to look at larger amounts of Gcode. So let's say I like sent $$ to get information on my machine. It's kind of hard to scroll through this small area here and look at all this, whereas having a much larger window to look at it with can be much more handy. Obviously, you can send the commands in either of these windows. Or if you're sending a job actively, then you can also do that too. I'm going to actually quickly connect to another board that isn't the machine behind me. Actually, this board is a Gerbil board. So that it doesn't actually move around, but I'm just going to show you if I pop this console out here, and then I start the job, then now I have a much better ability to actually monitor all the Gcode that's passing. You know, this isn't something that the average person has to do, but it is kind of handy if you're doing more advanced work. Okay. Another tip that not a lot of people use is, actually, I'll give a simple tip next. So some of you, as you're kind of going through and using the newer versions of gSender, you might be noticing this, this lock that is sticking here all the time. Just so you're aware, this is just here as a last resort item, okay? So don't freak out if you see this. All this is like, we try to make it so that any time gSender might get stuck, you can get out of it. So for instance, you know, I hit the e-stop on the machine, and then I can click this unlock here and get rid of the e-stop alarm. But let's say you just tried some stuff and then the thing that popped up, you're clicking it and nothing's happening. This is like your backup here, okay? That allows you to just send the unlock anytime. So that's just for your own use. Okay, another tip that is pretty cool. If you have not tried this before, you actually can have the ability to customize this visualizer. I know you guys will really like the default visualizer. And by the way, you have to unload the file first before you can edit this. But by default, we have two themes. We've got a dark theme and a light theme. So this is a bit higher contrast if any of you guys have difficulty seeing what's going on the screen. But you can also do a fully custom version. And you can see on this fully custom version, you have the ability to change any of these colors. So like, let's say I wanted to change the background to be neon green. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Oh yeah, that's gonna make my CNCing a whole lot better. So yeah, you can imagine how much fun that is. I'm gonna switch it back to the dark mode because that's my favorite personally. But I just thought I'd let you guys know that that exists. Another cool tip is that you, how do I say this? If you are ever in a situation where you are loading files that are harder for your machine to process, like Gcode files, and your computer isn't super powerful, gSender has the ability to actually go into what we call a lightweight mode. You can see the toggle for it up here. And what that lightweight mode allows you to do is remove some of the computationally intensive aspects of gSender, specifically on the visualizer. So I'll show you what that looks like here. So right now I've had it so lightweight mode just gets rid of the bit. This isn't going to help a whole lot, but it'll help a little bit. So you see what I did there? So I'm going to load up this file, right? And if I turn on lightweight mode, you see how where there used to be the cutting tool here, it gets replaced with a little dot. But you can actually go a lot further with this, where you can also get rid of like animations of the cut pass. You can get rid of Gcode visualization entirely if you want. So if I turn on lightweight mode, it'll just remove it entirely. Or if you want something in between, you can turn on what's called the SVG visualizer. And this is pretty cool. So what this does is it actually takes your 3D work environment here, and this is like taking up some computer processing power right now running this. And what it'll do is it'll look at your file from above and take a snapshot of it and turn it into just a static picture. And so then when you turn that on, there you go, there's your picture. And this isn't 3D anymore. So this allows you to still see your files without having all the processing power of making the 3D environment. So these are all handy things for people that have lower power computers. Okay, we're going to go back to the chat now because there's been some more questions coming in. Let's see here what we've got going on. Eddie says as soon as he wrecks his long mill, he's going to replace it with an alt mill. I mean, sounds good. If that sounds like a fine plan to me. We just came out with a video that I'd encourage you guys to check out. It's a fun comparison video that let me get the link here. I'll put the link in the chat for you guys. But what's great about it is that it kind of points out some of the differences between the long mill and the alt mill and why you might choose to purchase one over the other. And I think that's pretty handy because, of course, if you're someone with any wealth and you just want to get the bestest working, most amazingness thing, then that's a fine decision to make. And, you know, that would be our current top of the line, which would be the alt mill. But, you know, if you're trying to save a bit more money or you just don't need something as big for your shop, anything along those lines, then that's where the long mill makes sense, in my opinion. So here, I'll drop it in the chat for you guys if you haven't seen it already. All right, let's see, what other questions do we have here? Is a Pi version still being actively developed of gSender? You'll have to clarify what you mean, Carmine. There is a Pi version that you can find in every install version. You can see if I go here, back to gSender, to the main page. We always have a Pi version available for download with every build. In terms of a headless version, which you could be referring to, it's not something that we have a current solution for, essentially. Where basically gSender, the way that it's been built, there's no easy way for it to support a headless setup. It's something that we're trying to still keep in mind as we move forward, but that's not something that's doable as of right now. Hopefully that answers your question. Do the long mill and alt mill only work with Gerbil? Any future work with SolidWorks CAM compatibility? So Clark, let me just try to unpack a little bit the questions that you're asking. In terms of work with Gerbil, quote unquote, so Gerbil is a firmware. It's one of those things where it's like when you have a machine, you have an electronics board for that machine, and then you have a chip on that board, and that chip needs to take your computer input and turn that into stepper motor movements. And that's what Gerbil is, as well as Gerbil HAL. So the way that those work, they just take normal Gcode commands from your computer. And as long as you're connecting to your machine from something like gSender or Open Builds Control or UGS, Universal Gcode Sender. Those all support Gerbil and Gerbil HAL as a sender. And they all accept typical Gcode input, like Gcode files as input. So I would be very surprised if SolidWorks CAM doesn't have the ability to output mostly vanilla Gerbil or mostly vanilla Gcode. It might be a post processor that says Gerbil on it. It might be a post processor that just says like some sort of plain version of a post processor that exists. But you just need to output Gcode. Like Gcode is a very universal language that most CNCs can understand. So that should be the end of it, basically. And as far as Gerbil is concerned, just so people understand, the older board that we used to run, actually I have one here. Let me switch to my more uglier camera. This older board here, as compared to the new one here, this is the long board, and it runs on the Gerbil firmware, and this is the super long board, and it runs on the Gerbil HAL firmware. So these are just the two firmwares that they run. As far as our long mill machine, it's been able to be set up to run by either of these. All of the old versions of the long mill sold with this, and all the new versions now sell with this. But any old version that runs on this, you can buy this and swap it in and get new features. So this is like, these are both kind of like CNC brains. That's how you can think about it. The alt mill, the way it's designed is a bit more advanced to take control of the, like to get the extra use out of the advanced features on this guy. So it can only run on this. You can't run an alt mill on the older architecture. So hopefully that answers your questions. All right, next one. Will the SLB EXT be available for sale by itself? Yes, that is a something that is not available yet, but the goal is to make that available as soon as we can. As you can expect, right now, the main bottleneck in terms of our fulfillment, like if you buy a long mill on our store today, it'll be shipping out to you within a day or two because we have plenty of them in stock, and we have like almost all of our other parts. If you bought like a cutting tool or something like that, it can be shipped out to you within a couple hours, or at least like at the maximum a day or two as well. But the alt mill is been waiting on a bunch of parts that have gotten caught up in delivery. Like we're not at the point where we have tons of stock of them, because as soon as we stock them, we're selling them, right? And part of that stock is the EXT board that runs the alt mill. So we kind of have to get to the point where we actually have some of those boards on hand, extra boards on hand. And once we're at that point, then we can probably be making those available. Okay, next question. Sean is asking, he says my tip was sick. I think he's probably referring to this tip here. Thank you, Sean. I think it's really sick too. This was something that we subtly snuck in there as a way of keeping it looking like it's a normal number for people that don't need to change it, but making it changeable for people who want to change it. In terms of what key am I using to change the angles in gSender, so I'll just tell you, how I'm moving my mouse here. So if I want to scroll in and out, let me go back here. If I want to scroll in and out, I'm using my scroll wheel to scroll in and out. If I press and hold my left mouse button, and then I move my mouse around when I'm pressing and holding the left mouse button, that allows me to rotate. So I can rotate anywhere I want. And then if I press and hold my right mouse button, that allows me to kind of like pan, like move side to side across it. So that's how you kind of move around in gSender. There's also this little cube down here, and it can bring you to like pre-made views if you want to look at it from above or from the side. You can also look at it from the other side. So there's that too. All right, next question. Malcolm Temporal. When searching the traffic work, but with 3 passes to the finish line, you're going to have to submit your question again. I don't think I understand what you're asking, but I appreciate you asking it. Kenny, I'm doing great. Any news on the dual Y end stops? So I think what I might end up doing, Kenny, because there's a lot of people asking about it, is I might actually make a modified firmware for the long mill with the dual Y end stops that will be available privately, because there's a lot of changes that I'm going through right now on the firmware, and that's why it's taking a while. But I know there's interest in it. But the problem is that there's not enough time allocation right now to have people test it in like a beta tester scenario before I release it publicly. So what I would say about that is, if you want the dual Y-axis homing, if you could please just send me a private message through whatever means. It could be through the user forum. You could also send an email in to us on our contact form and just say, hey, I want to talk to Chris. Whatever way you want to use, you can just contact me directly. And when I go and I make that custom firmware build, I can hand it off to you, and you can use it as long as you know that like it hasn't been very thoroughly tested, if at all. It should work, because I did do at least a bit of testing on it. Yeah, that would be my answer to you. So yeah, so just contact me if that's something you're interested in. Next question. Eddie says he picked up an inductive sensor that runs on 6 volts to see if it'll work. If I step up the voltage coming from the longboard, would the longboard be able to handle the slightly higher input? Huh. I guess you mean for the original longboard and not for the super longboard. I feel like the voltage difference is not super high. That it should be within the range of what the components can handle. That's a good question, though. At the end of the day, if you're not super, if you're not feeling very confident about trying that out, you always have the other option available, which is to still try to source like a 5-volt inductor sensor. Although those are kind of hard to find. There are instances that we've run into earlier on when we were working on the long mill where we bought what was advertised as a 5-volt sensor and it was not. So that was kind of frustrating. But also, like potentially if you have something else you might want to buy from us, then if you can toss the sensors in there when that time comes, and then it'll be easier to swallow the shipping. Although now that I know you're in, I think it was Norway, right? Then that's still going to be a bit tough on the wallet. Dan Nussier. While using the AutoZero touch plate, is there a way to slow down the speed of the exit of the spindle movement? The exit of the spindle movement. I'm going to ask you a question, and if you're still in the chat, you can answer it, and then I can answer your question. So when you're talking about the spindle movement, are you talking about, so you got your AutoZero, are you talking about, you know, it does all the touches off and it does all the touches off, and then it goes to the center, and then it moves diagonally, it moves diagonally outwards to finish it off? Are you talking about that final movement there? And if you can answer that question, I can tell you the answer to that question. Okay, but I'll move on for now. Do you think you'll ever add a pendant controller? By Kenny. So that is, I won't make any promises, but I did leave ports available for it on the Super Longboard. And we are, I'll just say, like, several years ago, we actually intended on making a pendant, and we were working on it for several months, and the project fell through. We've always wanted to reapproach it ever since. We're still investigating some stuff, but now that the Super Longboard exists, now that the alt mill exists, we have some more motivation to try it out. Once again, though, you guys see how much stuff we've been coming out with recently. As you guys know, a lot of the products that we put out are like first party, you might call it, where we're trying to make sure that we can do the best in terms of checking that things work with each other, and anything you might buy can all come, you know, through our shipping. And so yeah, we've been kind of busy with a bunch of stuff recently, but I'll leave it at that for now. And if there's more news on it, then I'm sure you'll see it in one of Andy's update blog posts. Okay, so I see Dan. Okay, so Dan, you're asking about the diagonal movement. That's what I thought. Okay, good. I can answer your question. Okay, so I'm gonna use my CNC Doctor intuition here, my Chris's CNC Doctor intuition, and presume that when you're talking about reducing the diagonal movement, it's because you're losing steps on that diagonal movement. Like it's trying to make that movement and something's going wrong during it because it's happening too quickly. And if that's the case, then that's a really great question to be asking. So basically, when we put the Super Longboard out, I'm going to presume you have a Super Longboard. We put it out with higher settings in terms of the speeds that it can move at, the acceleration that it can move at. And the reason for that was because the board is capable of moving the machine at that higher speed. Now, something that wasn't accounted for is that if your machine is still kind of like not the best in terms of how it's mechanically tuned, it now isn't able to keep up with the speeds that the Super Longboard can reach on your machine. Now, in those cases, what that means is you have two options. Your first option is to either help tune your machine. And when I mean tune it, I'm talking about making sure that you don't have too much resistance when you're trying to move all of the individual axes. One of the best ways to check it, at least on the long mill, is I'll go to my wide shot here. Is like, for instance, on the motor here, just trying to manually turn the coupler. Next time I'll have a setup that's closer to the machine so you guys can see it. But just trying to rotate it by hand, it shouldn't feel too hard. Like, you should be able to take the coupler and be able to twist it like this. and it shouldn't be too hard to rotate. And if it is kind of hard, or if it's you hit a rough spot somewhere along the movement, then that's when you might want to look at loosening the two nuts that attach the anti-backlash nut of the plate to the lead screw, or reducing the pinching that you have on the V wheels. Now, all of that aside, if that is still something that you feel like you've done the best you can mechanically, but you're still having an issue like that, then what I would recommend you do is you come into gSender here, you connect to your machine, and you go into your firmware. And when you go to, you're going to scroll down here, and basically what you're going to find is you're going to find the 110 and 111, which is the maximum speed that your X and Y axes are set to move at. This is set up for a long mill right now. If you're using an alt mill, the numbers will be different. But if you reduce these values, then that will reduce that maximum speed movement that happens at the end, as well as 120 and 121, which is the acceleration. And if you reduce these, then that'll reduce how quickly it makes that movement getting up to speed and slowing down at the end. So feel free, if for your particular machine, if you feel like it's set up mechanically correctly, but you're still running into issues, feel free to reduce these numbers. Now, obviously, this is going to reduce the maximum speed that your machine can move at all times, not just for probing. But if you're running into this issue that it's losing its position during probing, then it's likely that it'll also be losing its position at other times too. So this is a pretty safe bet to do in that case. So I would just reduce these until that issue that you're having goes away. And once it goes away, you could even lower it by another couple hundred more just to be safe. The other thing I will mention as well is that quick movement that it makes at the end. You don't have to if you want to test it, you don't have to run a probing sequence to test that it will happen. You can recreate that movement with just a jog movement. So I think at the end of the auto zero movement, it moves by about like 25 millimeters. So what you can do is you can just in the jog control here, just increase it to rapid, set the XY move to like 25 or maybe set it to like 30, and then set the speed to, I don't know what it's set to on the alt mill, but let's just say like 10,000, and then just make that diagonal movement. And if it stalls out, you'll see. Here, I'll show you that it's moving the machine back there. So that's what I'd advise to try out for that. Next question. Matthew Mead. Ah, yes, Matthew. You're asking me some questions late last night. Are there different TB6600 drivers available for the Vortex, or will they all run NEMA 23 motors? I believe there might be something that I didn't refer you to last night, and I'll just go there now. So I'm just going to the resources for the super longboard here. Yeah, so you can see in the header text here, the ones that I'm the most familiar with and have used are the DM542 and the TB6600s. Those, basically, as long as the stepper motor is able to run at the super longboard runs at 24 volts, So as long as the stepper motor driver can run at 24 volts minimum as well, and also output at least like 2 to 3 amps, then it will work for NEMA 23 motor. And most of these external drivers that you find, like if you search up the DM542, for instance, this form factor that you'll find here is like the typical one that you'll find, and that should work fine for the NEMA 23. I hope that answers your question. Okay, what else do we have going in here? Oh, from Matthew again. Has there been any updates running a full AT system on the long mill Mark 2.5, like the Pwn CNC's ATC system or Rapid Change ATC? So any updates? Well, I guess it would depend on the last news that you've heard, but the easier answer to that question is that the main barrier right now has been if we want to do like official support, then we would like to do it on the firmware side of things, and then there's kind of like the unofficial support, and that unofficial support for something like the rapid change already exists. So let me just go to their channel here, and I'll show you what I mean. So they already have a video here. They put this up 6 months ago, and this describes how for any Gerbil or Gerbil HAL machine, you can use gSender alongside a utility that they've made and some macro commands to run the rapid change unit fully, as far as I'm aware. So maybe this doesn't, I think this doesn't involve the sensor to sense that you've picked it up correctly. But I haven't tried it myself, so it might involve the sensor still. But they did a really good job putting this all together, and it's documented here. So that is technically already available if that's something you want to take the time to set up. I know some people have already set this up on their machines. As far as an ATC system that's a bit of like a step above that, I'm sure you guys have seen some of our videos recently where we're doing active testing on it. The setup isn't actually too bad, but we just are trying to make sure that everything is working correctly. And as soon as we're feeling confident about that, we're probably at the least going to put out some documentation on it. So you should be able to keep your eye out for that. And that is going to apply to technically to both the long mill and the alt mill, because the two versions of the super long board they're running have the only place that they're different is in how they are controlling the motors, but every other aspect of the board is the same. So anything about controlling an ATC, for instance, would be the same between the two of them. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. And I think the last thing that I'll add on there is, like, right now, some aspects that have helped us to develop the ATC system faster than we would have developed it otherwise for like the alt mill and the long mill has been community support. As you guys know, the stuff we work on is open source, and that means that you can see the code that we have published for how the super long board circuitry is, how the code for the firmware works, how gSender works. And it's been very useful to get feedback from people that are interested in the community that are wanting these systems to be set up, and getting that feedback to let us know the sort of tweaks we can be making to work towards better supporting tool changing. So if you are really wanting to be involved, definitely consider doing that as well. I think that would be great. Of course, we would appreciate it, and of course, you'll be able to get to having that support faster, as well as other people will be able to get it too. So that'll be my answer for that for now. From Malcolm Temporal, is it possible to put a Mark II Z-axis system onto a Mark I? Yes, it is. It definitely is possible to do that. So what you'll want to do, I'm not sure the exact page it's on, but I'll find it here for you. You're just going to be wanting to go into the store here. I think it's this guy here. Yeah. There should be another option. I can't remember. If you want, you can send us in an email about it on our contact page here on our website. But we do already sell the Mark II Z-axis, like XZ-axis carriage and assembly for people who have the Mark I. In this case, the page that I'm on also is for the extension. I can't remember if we sell it on its own without the extension, but I feel like we should, because they do. Anyway, yeah. If you just call us in, I'm sure you'll be able to get a more direct answer about that, or email us about it. Yeah, Kenny mentioned you guys should be, how many likes do we have on the video? We have only 17, guys. I've been helping you for, like an hour and a half. Come on. What's going on? In all seriousness, though, like, if you guys really like the information I'm giving you and you think other people would like it too, then I would really like it if you could like the video so that it's also shared with other people, because we're trying to just put out good CNC information into the world. And I'm trying to make it so that these live streams aren't specific to our machines. I want to just be able to help anyone else that I can. And and liking the video kind of gives it some more visibility to put it in front of other people's eyes. So do me a favor and help me out in that regard, and I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the next question. Oh, you guys are great. Wow, we almost added another 10, just like that. Thank you, guys. Yeah, this is a community effort, right? And you guys know that we care about our community a lot, even especially with what I was just talking to Matthew about with the open source contributions as well. Like, we're not like paywalling, like all this work that we're doing, we're not hiding it or anything. We're trying to make it available to other people so that you guys can be benefiting off of it, and hopefully other people in the community can take the things we're working on and do other stuff with it. I think it's really cool to see that be worked on. Okay, next question from David. Have you broken the alt mill when testing the limits? That's a good question. So that would be still a better question to ask Daniel, who is the lead engineer on alt mill, because I haven't been in the room every time he's tested it, most times actually. But what I can tell you is that there's a video of him standing on the Z-axis. I'll pull up a picture here. So imagine the weight of an entire human on the router mount. Like imagine the spindle isn't there and he's just standing on the router mount with his foot, and it raised him up, which is crazy. That's like it's got to be close to 200 pounds. So yeah, I don't know if they've actually, like, the machine is definitely powerful enough that it could really like twist itself or break itself in some way. I don't know, to my knowledge, if that's happened, because we have the closed loop motors on there, which helps. We've got the mandatory homing. We've got the soft limits. So it's handy that the machine isn't capable of hurting itself too much. It will definitely hurt you if you get in the way. That's for sure. We do have another fun video. So as you might have seen in Andy's most recent blog post, and if you haven't seen it, it's available under the blog post we have here. So it's the most recent one. We've been working on different size machines. And you can see this one here. This is pretty great, huh? Let's just zoom in here. Look at the size of that alt mill. I think it's like a little over 1 foot by 1 foot. But this thing's crazy. When they have made it so small, you can imagine that the machine's now capable of moving even faster, with even higher accelerations than the normal size machine is, because it's got much less weight to move around. They bumped the speed and the acceleration up so high that you see the panel, this way, you see the panel there running gSender, the panel that we sell. If you went and pressed the jog in the y-axis, the whole machine would shake backwards and forwards again, so that even if you were holding your finger still, the screen would run into your finger, which would cause it to jog again and then shake and then jog again and shake. And so you could just hold your finger there and it just kept basically jogging itself. So it's a very powerful machine, that's for sure. And I don't know what the plan is for this form factor, but you definitely need some more weight lower down if you wanted it to run long term. So I hope that answers your question in a bit of a silly way. I'll pause for a second here and just let you guys know, once again, anyone who's watching, if you're wondering, what is all this stuff that I'm talking about? This is a live stream that I'm trying out. This is our first session at it, and I'm calling it Chris the CNC Doctor. You can also probably call it Chris's Ramblings too, depending on, how you want to be about it. But basically, I'm here to, I've worked, if you guys don't know me, I helped start CNC Labs coming up on 9 years ago. It'll be 9 years in January. And so I'm very familiar with long mill, still kind of familiar with the alt mill. gSender was a project that I started with my team. So I'm basically not just knowledgeable about those specific things, but also I've just been immersed in the world of hobby CNCing for quite a long time now. So I thought it'd be nice to run a live stream where I can kind of teach people about some stuff they might not know about how to run their machine, but also answer people's questions if they're having difficulties about anything in particular. Feel free to ask me questions about anything. It doesn't have to be about the machines we sell. It doesn't have to be about the products we stock. I'm just trying to be helpful in the CNC community here. And hopefully it can lead to more knowledge out into the great outdoors. So that's my little spiel. All right, back to the questions in the comments. Leave me a comment if you have anything you want to ask me. So Matthew asks, is it possible to run 2 anti-backlash nuts on the x-axis to try to help with some of the play in the lead screw? I don't know. Like, technically it's probably possible, but I don't know if that will work out because the holes on the carriage for the long mill are not slotted, and I don't think you could guarantee that if you put two nuts on it that they would line up, like the threading would line up between them. And you definitely don't want to make a setup that causes too much overcompensation. The point of the backlash nuts is that they're already supposed to be two nuts in one, right? So they're supposed to be eliminating that backlash already. So yeah, I don't really know if that would solve a problem that I don't know if you're having that problem currently or if that's like a situational problem you're trying to think about. By the way, I'm just going to skip the line a sec because Rick Blizzard said, wait, was it Rick Blizzard who said, yeah, bump stock for CNC. Yes, exactly. It was a bump stock for the CNC. It was just firing itself. It was crazy. Okay, so moving on to the next question. Let's see here. From Kenny again. Getting lots of questions from Matthew and Kenny, so they're really taking advantage of the doctor's time. That's a smart move, guys. Like, whenever I go to see the doctor and they tell you, oh, just keep it to one problem at a time and make another appointment. And that takes time. You got to wait for the next appointment to come up. So you guys are really using my time well, and your own time well. Could you make the machine park to the back every time a job is finished? That would be sweet. Kenny, you can totally do that. You can totally do that. Okay, so I will put an asterisk on this, that you need to have a machine with limit switches to make this happen reliably, okay? But assuming that you have a machine with limit switches, then here's how you would go about doing that. You're going to go into your settings, go to your program events, and then there's this box here that says program stop. The program stop will, when you put Gcode in there, that Gcode is going to run anytime you stop a file. Like if you're in the middle of cutting and you intentionally stop it, it's going to trigger this. But also once you get to the end of a file, it's going to trigger this as well. And just a reminder, everything that I'm talking about today, I don't think there's a single thing I can talk about that isn't already on our documentation online. And the reason why I say that is because the vast majority of the 8 questions I'm going to be answering today, I am also the person that either overlooks the documentation being made for it or I made it myself. So it's like my brain is on this page or these pages, so you can find this all this stuff later. But anyway, I'm going to go to gSender, additional features, because this isn't like a typical feature that you use, so it's on the additional features page. And I'm going to go down to the start stop Gcode section, and the stuff I'm talking about just now in my answer to you, you can go find it here. I'll put it in the chat if anyone wants to check it out. But it's going to talk about the stuff that I'm talking about right now. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to show you what that looks like. So basically, all you really have to do is you've got, if you've homed the machine, then you're going to have reliable, what are called machine coordinates. And if you're using machine coordinates, then it's going to use the machine coordinate system, which is a G53. So I'm going to put G53. And then I'm going to put rapid movement, which is the fastest version of a movement you can make. And then I'm going to put an X location and a Y location. So let's say that your machine has a travel of like 800 by 800 millimeters. And at the end of the job, you want it to move to the back right corner. I'm not going to go the full 800 millimeters. I'd go maybe like 750 and 750. And the only other thing that you'd want to put in here is you'd want to put a G91 Z, I don't know, like, oh, actually, no, this would be a better thing to do. I'd do a G53, G0, Z0. I think I don't have the, do I have the capacity to test this right now? Actually, I probably could test this for you. But I think this is basically all you need, Kenny. All this is doing is it's just making a movement, particularly in the machine coordinate system. And it's going to move the z-axis all the way up to the top first so that it doesn't run into anything ideally along the way. And then it's going to move the x and y axes all the way to that back corner. What I'll do here is I'll make it, let's just make it like 20 and 20 here. Just for, I'm just going to test it out real quick. And make sure you click the update stop event as well. I'll switch the video to my lower quality footage. This is really tricky because everything's kind of reversed here. Let's home this machine here. Oh, I just realized I don't have a... Let me fix this here. Just to show you that I'm clicking stuff. There we go. I'm just gonna stick that in the bottom corner. Anyway, I'm gonna just click the home here. So we're just gonna home the machine. There we go. And then what I'll do is I will 0 for this job. And I'm gonna just run it. Oh, yeah, right. It's gonna hit the soft limits. Gotta not have that happen. Just gonna move it a little bit away first. My computer is struggling to keep up here, guys. Just give me a sec. I'm running a lot of stuff simultaneously. Okay, I'm just gonna home it again. All right, now I'm gonna jog it. Should be able to 0 here. I'm gonna load a smaller job. Now this one might be fine. Oh, you know what, guys? I'm dumb. This one of those classic mistakes that you make. I need to lower my z-axis as well when I set my 0. I think that's, there we go. So this is going to run the thing, and if I hit the stop job, it should retract. Come on. Oh, sorry. That's going to put in an alarm state. If I run this again, and I pause it, and then I stop it. Okay, it actually did it that time. All right, that was a very roundabout way, but the code is valid. The Gcode is valid. Sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you guys. But let me just review kind of what happened there. So I was just running into some issues at the start because my computer's running like recording and live streaming and webcams and all this stuff right now. And I haven't set this up in a while, so it was just a bit buggy. And then I kept getting an alarm too. Actually, so I'm going to put this question out to the class, to you guys watching. Why, I already said this, but why was I getting an alarm too just now when I was running the job? Are there any takers? It's that question. And while I wait, I'm going to just pull something up in the background and see if that's going to help in any of the responses that I see in the chat. Why was I getting an alarm too when I was trying to run that job? I'll give it a couple more minutes. Now's your time to look really smart in front of tens of viewers. This is very, this could be your moment to shine. Another minute or two. Okay. Commentary is closed now. Let's see. Okay, we got some great responses, and you are all correct. Basically, I had homed the machine, and then I only moved over in the X and Y before I set the 0 for the project, and then I tried to run it. But a lot of projects will have like a movement up in the Z-axis at some point in the project when you're running the file. And in this project, Gcode that I was running did that. And of course, it couldn't move up anymore because I was already at my maximum Z-axis. So it was saying to me, oh, I can't move any further. You've hit your soft limit. That's what it's called. Is the soft limit means it's on the software side, which means it's telling me that it's doing the math in advance and saying you can't move that direction. And so, yeah, so it was not letting me run the job. And as soon as I realized that, all I had to do was just lower the Z-axis to set the 0 so that there would be enough space for it to move up without it having that alarm happen. And then I was able to run it. Now, of course, when I was running it, the reason I didn't jog that far over is because I was wanting to run the job in the air. And when I say in the air, I basically am meaning like I don't actually have material for it to cut, and I don't want it to collide with anything. So I'm just setting the 0 up in nowhere space so that when it runs, the machine just moves and it's not really cutting anything. So that was the first issue. Then the second issue that I ran into was the issue of like when you stop a job that's running live, if you stop it immediately, it'll put an alarm on the stop because it's likely that you've lost the position of the machine. Now, of course, that means that I kind of was not telling you the full story when I said that you could stop it and the code would run. It's a bit of an asterisk that you actually have to pause it first and then stop it. And that's like a way of like safely stopping a job that doesn't have an alarm happen. But because Kenny's original question was, Chris, how do I make this happen at the end of every job, not necessarily when he stops it, then it's still fine. In this case, I just didn't want to wait till the job finished. So I just wanted to stop it faster so I could check that the code works. And as you saw, when I stopped it, it moved up in the Z-axis to the top and it moved over in the XY to the location that I set. So there you go, Kenny. I hope that helps you out. Let me put the Gcode in the chat here in case anyone would like to use it. It's very simple. And and make sure that the 20 location is not actually 20, because no machine is that going to be the back right corner. That's going to, if anything, be the front left corner on most machines. But just change that to where you want the position to be, and that should work out for you. And feel free to give it a shot. I'm just going to take a quick note here. And yeah, with that being said, I hope you guys had some fun with that question. Thanks for asking that, Kenny. That was a pretty fun question, because I'm sure other people were able to learn some good stuff from that. And I'll move on to the next one. Okay. What's next? Not a question. Okay, so this is from Skytation. Not a question, but just wanted to say I've been following you guys for a couple of years. Found you via your shop tour video. Oh, cool. You inspired me to start CAD and created my own flight sim yoke. That's really neat. Keep it up. Yeah, you keep it up too, Skytation. That's awesome. It's so cool to be able to share passions with other people, share knowledge with other people. I mean, it's just really cool, the things that people know. And sometimes it's one of those funny things too, where you are sharing it and you don't even think about it twice, that you could be saying something really neat. Because to you, it seems so normal, right? And that's happened to me many times too. So one of the things that made Andy and I start our company was kind of giving back to the community. And at the time, the 3D printing community was on the rise. I had my first 3D printer was a tricolor Mendel, actually, that I bought from the UK. I saved up lots of money to buy it, just to get some threaded rod and some 3D printed pieces. But it was so cool when I got it working, and I was like, I can't believe all these people have worked together to make such a cool resource for other people to make stuff. And so that was really cool to have happen, and now be a part of giving back to on our side of things. So I'm glad you found our shop tour video. Those were really fun for me to film. And yeah, maybe you'll make a shop tour video one day too. Who knows? Or maybe like a office tour or something like that. Or maybe I'll see your flight sim yoke. That sounds cool. Another question from Kenny. Will there be a TLS button in gSender? A TLS button. Like, are you saying a button where you click it and it goes and measures your tool? That's the only thing I can think of. So let me know in a response in the comments. I'll find it later on. You like the look of the new UI. Thank you. If I can get through some more comments here, I'll go back to the UI and show it off. Dan Nusier was wondering how to set up the soft and hard limits on the alt mill. So all of the guidance should be in our documentation for it. So I'll just go back here again, go to alt mill. And also, to my knowledge, they should be set up by default. Oops. I think it's this page or the next one. Let me see here. Okay, so that's homing. Let's do a search here. Okay, this is a troubleshooting page here. Let me see if there's anything else. By the way, I'd recommend if you guys are ever trying to find something for whatever, if you've gotten stuff from us or what have you, use the search bar. It's very useful to be able to find stuff. Gives you a lot of results in terms of, like in this case, I'm trying to see if there's anything about soft limits that I don't know about already. And it should be able to pop up here. Okay. I guess I'm not sure if they're set up by default for the alt mill. But if you were wanting to set them up, actually I can check here if I do this. And I just scroll down here. Oh yeah, so they're already turned on by default for the alt mill, soft limits and hard limits. All it is if you just go to the firmware tool and as long as you select one of the alt mill profiles, you can see here that this is on for soft limits. And if I reset this to the default value, it'll also turn this on for me. And there you now have both of them turned on. It's as easy as that. Next question. Matthew, Rick said some stuff. Eddie, I love your commentary, very colorful. Kenny, I would love to buy the X-axis extrusion twice for my Mark II 48x30 to make it become a Mark II 48x48 with modifications for connecting everything together. Hey, I mean, I'm not gonna stop you, Kenny. Like, technically, that's possible to buy 2 more 48-inch X-axis extrusions. I was mentioning earlier, we have stock of all long mill parts right now. So even if you have like an odd request, if you send, if you contact us, it's very likely we can fulfill a request for you. Well, maybe I shouldn't say very likely, but we'll do our best. There's a lot of stuff that we don't put, so just go to the contact right here and you can contact us. There's a lot of stuff that we don't necessarily put up on the store because they're just like much smaller parts here and there. Like let's say you sent us a message saying, you know, I'm missing a couple bolts or something like that. Then if you were also buying something else alongside it, then we would just ship it to you, or we would try to just give you a fair price, even though it's not on the store. Or we would find something else on the store that's like an equivalent value, and just charge you for that instead. So there's many ways that we can go through to provide parts for people. As you guys know, since we do a lot of open source stuff and we try to fairly price everything, people buy stuff from us for various uses. There was a university that contacted us in Germany that wanted to buy the super long board. I'm not sure why, but I'm really excited if they publish anything about it. It was like a university for art and something else, but it was very cool. Next question. Have I seen Francis Marasigan's setup running the rapid change in his auto dust boot that he's making? Yes, I'm working directly with Francis actually. Well, he's doing more work on it than I am, that's for sure, because he's gone and made this whole dust boot and played around with the firmware and stuff like that. But I'm actively communicating closely with him back and forth to make sure that, as I mentioned to you, like right now he's one of the main people that are contributing to open source improvements to ATC support. So, and I'm really thankful about that. Kyle, I'm not sure how long ago now you asked this question, but I just got to your question, so I hope you're still here so I can answer it. What are my thoughts on the Lowrider V4? Got all your parts and have a gantry built. Need to put it on a table, but curious if you've seen that project before. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I know about the Lowrider project. I talk with Ryan quite often. He does really cool stuff. I mean, I have not obviously had a hands-on with the Lowrider V4. I was not able to make it to open source this year, where I know he had it set up there. But from the renders and the videos and the pictures, it looks really cool. Like, I'm very impressed with the mechanical ability that they've been able to set up on that machine. So, no, I think it's really cool to have people approaching this concept that we're trying to solve of like making an accessible and usable CNC. And it's so cool to have so many people involved in the space giving their own solution for that concept. Yeah, like I can't believe he's managed to make it through 4 versions already and keep bringing new features to the table, and the extra rigidity he's added and stuff. It's a very unique concept, but it seems to be working for people. That's about the most I can offer in terms of my own personal insights. I haven't done like an in-depth mechanical analysis on the design, but I know he works really hard on his designs, and it's cool how he gets the community involved in it too. So yeah, if you just got all your parts in and stuff, I hope the assembly goes well and you're able to enjoy your machine. Madra, you're hanging out for a bit, but you're enjoying the chat. I'm glad to hear that. What are my recommendations for cleaning a Mark II long mill? What to clean, what not to clean, what to oil, what not to oil, basic machine maintenance. That would be helpful. So I'm gonna link again the specific page that we have for this, because I'm basically just gonna say the same things that the page already says. And it's under Long Mill Mark II, handbook, and we have this page on maintenance. And this is going to go over everything you can do to keep your long mill running. You can even see my own face. This is Chris from, how old is this clip now? Several years old. So if you want to travel back in time, you'll be able to accomplish that by watching that video. But basically the oversight of doing maintenance on the long mill, there's kind of 2 aspects to it. The first aspect is like keeping your machine running accurately. And the second one is making it so your machine can run long term. In terms of running it accurately, the main considerations you want to make is you want to be looking at the V-wheels, using the eccentric nuts on the V-wheels, and the anti-backlash nuts if you have the older version with a set screw. Not the spring-loaded ones, but the ones that you have to manually adjust. Then you want to make sure you're making constant, well, not constant, but if you go to grab your machine here and you try to like wiggle it back and forth like this for the x-axis, let's say, and you can see it kind of wiggling a bit. Like if it helps, you can put a V-bit in the collet and bring it down to the wasteboard and put a little mark down there, and then just try wiggling it and see if the tip of the V-bit is like wiggling against the dot. If you see something like that, then you might want to adjust your anti-backlash nut to shore up the precision of your machine. And then for the wheels, you basically just want to go behind and you want to try rotating by hand the wheels. So like for instance, I actually just went to check the wheel down here, and this is spinning like really freely. Like I'm having no problems turning this right now. Same on the other side. So that is an indication that I should really tighten them up more. But in this case, I actually, this machine actually has the eccentric nuts turned all the way clamped onto the rail currently. So I can't actually tighten this anymore. So in this case, I would actually be, if I was using this machine for cutting, I'd want to replace the wheels, because the wheels have worn out enough that they need replacing. So that's kind of the Oh, and the last thing that you would want to do to maintain, let me hide this real quick. The last thing you'd want to do to maintain an accurate movement of your machine is going around your machine and looking for any loose nuts or bolts. Use the Allen keys that we gave you and just double check the tightness on everything so that you don't have anything coming loose. Now, as far as making sure your machine runs long term, those sorts of maintenance items would be things like cleaning off your rails. So you'd want to have like, I mean, the easiest way you can clean them off, you can just use your fingernail and you can just run them along the rails, and you'll just see these little black flecks along the edges of all the rails. Those black flecks are dust that are settling on the rail, and the wheels are kind of rolling over the dust and compressing it down. And you just want to clean that off so that you can keep the wheels running smoothly. And then the other one would be like the linear guides, where you want to just take a cloth every once in a while and just wipe the rails down to get the dust off of them. Because over time they'll accumulate like a thin layer of dust. Just take a cloth and wipe that off, and then reapply some lubricant on there. And in the page we talk about the types of lubricant you can choose there. So those would be the major things you'd want to do. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Let me know if you've got anything else. Kenny says we should open a second shop in Quebec. He'll come work for us if it's not too far from his house. That's a lot of ifs, a lot of conditional statements going on there, Kenny. I appreciate you saying that. Who knows, maybe your house could be our shop. Then you definitely don't have to commute, right? It's just you get out of bed and you got a fulfillment facility right next to your what, I don't know if you put on some slippers in the morning or whatnot, but it'll be right next to them. Okay. Next question from Matthew again. Wow. So he has parking to the back right set up on his his action button. He can technically just add that to the stop Gcode. He said it will do it every time a job stops or I manually stop it. Yes, so if you were to put that, what I was showing earlier, this little run of Gcode, if you were to put this here, then it's going to run that every single time you finish running a job. Oh, by the way, here's my dirty fingers after cleaning the rails off. It's going to run that every time you get to the end of a job. And it's going to run that every time if you pause the cutting, and then while it's paused, you stop it, it'll run this too. So if you want it to be something that only happens like less occasionally, then you can keep it on your action button on the e-stop. And what he's talking about is these buttons that come with the super long board. There's 3 buttons here, and you can program or customize what these buttons do for you. And you can make them run Gcode, and that's what he's set up. I can show that later if I get close to the end of the questions currently online. But yeah, you can keep it on the button if you want to run it just anytime you wish. You can put it on here if you want it to run automatically every time. You can also have both if you want. And another option is we have these little toggles here. So if you're kind of tired of it going to the back corner, you can just toggle it off. And then the next job that it runs, it won't do it. And then you can toggle it back on as well. So there's a couple options you have there. Dave Olson. Hi, Chris. Did you end up finding the XY0 error when using the Auto Zero Touch probe? The issue that I found in 1.4.10 where you used the auto. I think that was fixed. That's a good question. Let's see here. It might be fixed, yeah. So just in case you guys don't know, if you ever want to see what we've done, you can either go onto our GitHub to the releases, and then you can see here we put pretty thorough notes on the changes we've made. But there's also a cool aspect, which is if you're in gSender and you go to the settings and you go to About, this also shows you in here the last 3 versions that we put out and the things that we changed for those last 3 versions. And it also has a link here if you want to go to that page that I already showed you. But yeah, you can see in here, we put a note about a fix for the AutoZero touch plate, correctly converting the bit diameter. I think that's the issue that you're mentioning, Dave, if I remember correctly. So give it a shot. Update to 1.4.11 and let us know if it fixed the problem. Howdy, Gary. So yeah, I'm going to move on to the next question. Thanks, Clark. I'm glad you enjoyed the answer. Glad to see you joining us, Gary. Let's see. Mark Lazinski. Issue setting up sensors after installing spindle to the long mill. I think you're going to have to give me some more information there. Like if you can tell me what is going wrong with the sensors, and also if they were working before, but then they stopped working after you installed the spindle. And then I can give you a follow-up comment on that. Okay, I'm doing a great job here. I'm almost caught up again. Okay. Kenny, you're saying you can't put the facility in your house? That's a real shame. I thought we had found the right solution there. Oh, Dave headed out. Oh no. Okay, Dave, I hope you came back later and watched the recorded live stream, because then you'll see that I answered your question. Okay, where else am I at? Soften this trigger. Oh, Kenny, I see. You saw the tool length sensor on my machine behind me. I mean, yeah, like I don't know if you guys know this, but the SLB supports the tool length sensor already. The functionality is there. I put out a video about it the other day, but it was just a private video that I sent to some people. But there's already documentation on it too. If you go to gSender, to the additional features, and then you scroll down, it's close to the bottom here, tool changing. There's some documentation here on how to set up a fixed tool sensor. And it shows the process that you can follow for that. Independently from that, there's also for the SLB documentation on the technical manual. In here, I talk about the hardware aspect of setting it up, like how to do the wiring and stuff like that. So this is like the wiring, and then this will link you back to the page we were just on, where it talks about setting up gSender to do it. But it's quite straightforward. You wire it in, and then I'll switch back over to here for a sec. And I pull this out. So you see how if I take my touch plate and I connect the magnet to the touch plate, you see how on the screen there, the little probe light has turned on. See, it's off and on. And then the same thing for my little tool length sensor back here. If I press that, that also turns on, right? And if we come back here, if you just go to tool change and you select the fixed tool sensor, you can just jog the machine to the location, grab the position, and then if you run any Gcode files that have a M6 tool change in it, it'll use this tool length sensor to sense the heights between the tool changes, and you're golden. So if you haven't tried that already, give it a shot. All right. Matthew says he prefers to have his back right parking on a macro so that he can run it after multiple files instead of moving to the back. Yeah, so because you want to customize it, it's better on the button than doing it every time, I think. All right, Kenny, he's giving us some more colorful conversation. His first 3D printer was an ANET 88. Yeah, I think that was a little after me. Not that I'm trying to brag or anything, but that was a little after, a couple of years after the Tricolor Mendel, but still a very early on one. I think we got one when we were first starting the 3D print farm for CNC back in the day. Yeah, so you were asking for a tool length sensor button to go to do a tool change. I hadn't thought about that, so I'll write it down. But yeah, of course, like as we continue moving towards fully supporting tool changing, that's the goal for the coming year. We're gonna just see how people tend to like using it, and if there's a button or several buttons we can put in there to make that process go easily, then we'll make sure we do it. From Seymour OK, when will the next batch of G-Control panels ship? From my latest update on that, it looks like they will be arriving to us around middle of January. And then we're going to be doing our best to get them out as soon as we can after that. So it could be as soon as late to end of January, I think, or maybe February, depending on where you are on the list. There's a bit of lineup of people that have pre-purchased them. So maybe depending on the speed of shipping, you might be looking at February by now. It's an unfortunate circumstance when we make products that people really like and then they get backlogged on orders. So, but that's always something that we're trying to, like anytime we have a new product we put out and that proves to be more popular than we expected, then we always try to make moves to improve the delivery times on those. Question from the Fuzz. Have users been reporting better connectivity using Ethernet versus USB on the SLB in response to EMI issues? So I can say that on average, I would say yes. Despite the fact that the USB on the SLB has considerably been improved in comparison to USB on our older Grobel baseboard, the longboard, as well as like other Grobel baseboards on the market that we've tested. The SLB, the way the USB is set up on it is much more improved. There have still been instances that users have been able to create where it has caused connectivity issues on the USB still. And when they've switched to Ethernet, those issues have gone away completely. To my knowledge, I don't know a single person running Ethernet that has had a disconnect or communication issue, which is really awesome. And what else can I say about it? Yeah, I guess that's all there is to say. So, but I would also say that the instances that I've seen of people having to switch over to Ethernet have been very, very low. Like the ratio of people that can actually find themselves in a situation where the USB isn't holding up for their environment or their application is quite low compared to the number of people that have been able to use the USB just fine. So, but we've made it so that both options are available. So use whatever option you feel most comfortable with. From Dustin, hey guys, are there any guides or tutorials on making custom macros in gSender? That's a great question, Dustin. So I will go back to my list of documentation that I have open. And since it's been a while, I'll just remind you guys, if you want to get to our docs, you just are on our main site, you go under resources, and you can click almost any of these and it'll take you straight there. So in this case, I'm going to go to the gSender documentation. Of course, you can also just go to like the main page of this documentation site and go through any of our products and find the documentation you're looking for. You can also, so in this case, right, Dustin, he's asking about macros. So I can look up macros here, right? And this is going to show me all the different pages that talk about making macros. In this case, I'm actually going to go to the additional features page where it talks a bit more in depth about macros. But there's plenty other ways you can get to this page, of course. And we have a specific subheading called Advanced Macros. And I think, Dustin, this is exactly for you because I've spent a decent amount of time putting this together. And it has lots of advice on different variables you can use, different commands you can use to set up custom macros in gSender with a couple examples as well. And I think that should get you well on your way. There's also, way at the bottom, there's also some community-sourced macros. Right now, there's only one that's been contributed by the community. But if anyone else makes macros that they feel are worth contributing, then please let us know. I would love to add more to this document so that other people can use it. So that should answer your question. Kenny says he's looking forward to make vacuum pods to hold down material. Vacuum from the bottom. From to and this way. I see, yeah. I mean, vacuum pods are very cool for certain types of cutting on the CNC. And if you can justify the cost and you think that the setup is right for you, then go for it. If you're using them in the right situation, that'll be able to save you a lot of time and it'll run very smoothly too. Cranberry Creek Productions. Thanks, Chris. Very informative, mostly above my head, but I appreciate your insight. I appreciate your comment, Cranberry Creek Productions. I know that this is going to be one of those things that running this is naturally going to be me being a bit more unfiltered and taking less time to think about the most simple way I can explain things. So if anyone needs any follow-up on an explanation I already made so that you can understand it, let me know. But of course, I've got a lot of stuff going on up here, and I sometimes when it's coming out, it might come out in a more engineering term sort of way. But I hope one way or another it's helpful to you. So Matthew is asking another question. Would it be possible to add LEDs to the e-stop? I guess it depends on if you're asking about RGB LEDs or just regular LEDs or what exactly you're asking for. The e-stop already comes with LEDs on it. So the first version we put out, it was the button itself that had a light built into it. And the ones that we're shipping now, I don't have one near me right now, do I? No, I don't think I do. But the one that we're shipping right now has LEDs that shine up through the body of the e-stop, which are, in my opinion, a bit more visible. So, I mean, if it's just regular LEDs, then, you know, maybe if you have some soldering skills, you can pick up the 24 volt signal that is running the current LEDs on the e-stop and add some of your own, add some more. Don't go too crazy though, because, you know, it wasn't designed to carry too much current, but yeah, I guess that'd be my answer to that. Grant says, since Kenny can't set up the remote location, think about Ottawa as a branch for the plant because he has no kids and he has room. Well, there we go. We've got an alternative. Thanks, Grant. I'm glad that we can just set up shops across Canada and probably across the US too. I think I've gotten messages about this before, even people down in the States. Hey, Chris, I got a big open facility with plenty of space in it. You can send a bunch of machines down here and I'll distribute it for you. So yeah, thanks you guys for giving us so many options. You'll hear from us shortly. So Mike Wentlink asks, when setting an alternative G54 location, is there a way to keep it at that location versus it automatically bouncing back to the P1 location? This is a great question, Mike. Just to help clarify something, so what Mike's talking about is, let's say I use a different workspace. This is like a bit more of an advanced thing, but most regular users won't ever have to touch this. It's just if you're setting up multiple jobs at different areas of your wasteboard on your machine, then you can toggle between multiple locations. So Mike's just saying he's using a different location where he set up a different job. He set a 0 there, right? He's running it. And then at the end of the job, it's reverting back to the old one. And you can see when I go from this one, which is at the 0, and I revert back to the other one, it's like moving my 0 location, which isn't good. So Mike, to answer your question, if it's reverting back, that is actually your Gcode that's doing that. There's certain Gcode commands that exist that when you send the command to the machine, it will revert the workspace back. Or sometimes it'll change, like the Gcode will explicitly tell it, change to the G54 workspace. That's basically what's happening to you right now. And we have a page in the documentation that talks about this. So if you're in the gSender documentation and you go to the problems and bugs page, then on the list here, you'll find near the bottom, workspace changes during or after a job. You can see the commands I was talking about here, an M2 or an M30, and that'll revert it. Basically, the solution for this, if you want this to not happen, is you're going to use in gSender our program events. This is another use case for them. And basically, what you're going to want to do is you're going to put in this variable here at the start of the file, and then you're going to put in this variable here at the end of the file here. So it's literally as easy as just copying them and pasting them in. And all this is doing is it's making sure that when you go to start your file, gSender is going to check what work coordinate system you're in and save it to this variable. And then when you finish your job, gSender is going to set the workspace back to the one that you had at the start of the job. And that's it. It's going to resolve that issue for you. Now, obviously, the better solution is just to not have those Gcode commands in your Gcode. And by the way, when you do this, make sure you click the updates to update it. But yeah, ideally it just wouldn't be in your Gcode in the first place. So you might want to consider checking your post processor to see if you can remove it. But that's a band-aid solution that we've offered on the gSender side of things to help with that issue. Okay, Mark Lazinski, he's given me some more information. So prior, he had said a while ago, he's having an issue setting up the limit switches after installing the spindle on his long mill. And he's clarified by saying the soft limits work, but when he added a spindle connection, the soft limits stopped working. Are you sure it's the soft limits and not just that the limit switches are being triggered? Like on their own? If you could tell me the alarm number that you're seeing, that'd be useful, right? If you're getting an alarm 1 or an alarm 2, or like what exactly is the issue that you're seeing when you're trying to use the limit switches? And also, what I would need you to tell me is your machine running the longboard or the super longboard as well? So I'll move on for now. Next question. Dustin asks, in regards to the fixed tool setter, is there a way to set it up to check for tool wear or breakage? That's a really good question, Dustin. I was actually thinking about that the other day. So the answer to your question is that right now, no, it does not check for that. But if we want to, make sure that in the long run it's working as fully properly as it can be, then that would definitely be something we'd want to implement. So great question. I'll write it down as well, just because even though I thought about it the other day, I might not have written it down. So thanks for the reminder. One other thing I will add is that the way we have the tool length sensor set up for gSender is, at the end of the day, it's kind of like a band-aid solution, because ideally the machine itself would know that it's doing a tool change, rather than us basically tricking the machine into doing a tool change, because that's what gSender is doing right now. It's just sending movement commands to the machine, and the machine doesn't know it's actually changing a tool. It just thinks it's moving around. The reason why I say that is because when the machine doesn't know it's doing a tool change and doesn't officially support tool changes, then that means it also doesn't support a tool table. And what that's important for is that you can then use the tool table to check the length of a tool against, like when you measure it against what's in the tool table, to more definitively tell you if the tool is broken or if there's been wear or something like that. Whereas if you don't have a table that exists for it, then the only alternative would be that we'd have to implement a tool table into gSender. And that, I think, is kind of a recipe for disaster, because of other reasons. I think that's something the machine should know about itself. So I think if that is something we'll implement, it will be something on the Gerbil HAL side, and maybe not on the Gcender side. I can't say for certain. I can see I just lost a bunch of viewers on the live stream because I'm just saying way too much technical garbledy-gook. Sorry, guys. But I will hope you forgive me for answering some technical questions. I'm going to take a break from answering questions for a second here and just put out another request. If any of you guys are enjoying the live stream, if you're enjoying the answers that I've given, anything like that, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. And it would make sure, the most important thing to me is that when I'm taking time to answer these questions, as you've seen, a lot of the times the answers to the questions are already in our documentation. So I'm mostly doing these because I just am trying to get more visibility to the answers, and so that I can help individual people. If you like the stuff that we're talking about and you want other people to be able to see it as well, if you like the video, then it will be shown to more people, and then they can benefit from all of this fun conversation as well. So thank you if you do that. All right, we'll get back to some more questions here. Kenny says he has many cool ideas for CNCs. That's great. You can, maybe we should start a CNC idea hotline or something like that. But at the very least, feel free to post your ideas on Facebook, like on our Facebook group or on our forum. Our forum is a great place for long-lasting community conversation. What's great about the forum is that when you make a topic about something, as opposed to Facebook, it kind of just disappears after a day or two. But on the forum, you can go back and check stuff. My favorite part of the forum is it's kind of like a tie, I would say, between the show-off category, where you get to go in and see things that people are working on, and the add-ons and modifications category, because then that one shows like modifications people have been making to their machines, which I also think is really cool. So for instance, the one that Matthew mentioned earlier, Francis, he's making this really cool automatically height moving dust boot for the alt mill. He's got all these pictures and stuff for it. It's very neat. And he's actively updating as he makes more progress on this on the forum. So this is like a cool place that you can go check out. What's another one? Let's see here. This is like, I think this was originally Grant. Yeah, Grant showing a tablet that he set up with a bunch of buttons to run gSender for his custom setup, sharing his layout so that other people can set it up themselves too. That's really cool. And yeah, this is a great place to post other stuff too, so I'd encourage you guys to do it if you'd like. I'm going to quickly look at some show-off stuff because I think this stuff's really fun. I'm not familiar with what that is. This I'm not sure what that's a holder for. Let's go next and see. Oh, this looks like oh, that's really cool. Look at Jake. Look at these fun inlays he's doing. Oh, yeah, these little labyrinth mazes. Look at this. I'm giving Eddie some free screen time right now. I'll send him the bill later on. That's a great ornament there. Looks like it was a combination of cutting and the laser. There's a lot of great projects on here, guys. You can get inspiration. You can ask people how they made it. Wow, look at this. Done on the alt mill. Wow. Thick foam. That's incredible. Wow. This looks professionally made, guys. I'm not gonna lie. I would have thought they bought this from the store. Wow. Great work, Lumber Party. Great work. That's so cool. Thanks for sharing too. All right. Anyway, yeah. Back on track. That was a bit of a tangent there. Merry Christmas, Madra. Definitely. As I said, I'm kind of doing this before I'm going to take some time off as well. And our office is going to be taking some time off where you're not going to see much from us for next week and the week after, because we're going to be, you know, taking some time with our family and stuff like that, relaxing after a long year of hard work. Let's see what other questions have come in. Ken Ada O2 Man 98. Cool. What effect does temperature have a long mill on or alt mill? Looking at purchasing one of them, putting it in the garage, gets 90 Fahrenheit in the summer and 0 Fahrenheit in the winter. Can they still be used? Yeah, I think Eddie's response to you is relatively level-headed. There is some information if you go for the long mill to the handbook and your Mark II, and you scroll down here, where is it? Oh yes, here, for temperatures. This kind of has some information here on like the operating temperature, operating humidity, the storage for a long mill. Sometimes the thing that actually stops working is something like your PC that you're using and not actually the hardware of the machine. So feel free to check that out. Here, I'll put the link to this in the chat if you'd like. Yeah, basically, I would just say the machine has a pretty wide range of operating temperature that it can work within. The material that's used is relatively stable across the temperatures that you would normally be comfortable being in the shop yourself, basically. Most of the time, the only issue comes from when it gets especially cold, then maybe you start finding that the mechanics of the machine are like a bit creaky. So some people prefer to do a little like warm-up cycle in that case to keep it running smoothly. And also the humidity can cause more of a problem, because then that can cause more static charge buildup and warping of material and stuff. That's the main stuff I'd be careful about. Yeah, it's a fun thing to do. You can see a lot of great projects people are doing with their machines, and there's always it's one of those areas too where it's like a lot of excitement right now. Even though we've been doing it for a long time now, every year there's more and more people involved in CNCing. So and it's cool when you get more people involved, because you get people from different backgrounds coming in with fresh ideas on what they want to be doing on their machines and how they want to be using them to make works of art, basically. So, or sometimes it's functional stuff too, and that's a work of art in its own right. So, yeah, if you get into it, I hope you enjoy it. Ken Aka, Ken aka O2 Man 98. Yeah. Cool. I've caught up on all my questions. Incredible. That means I get to show you guys some more stuff that aren't answering questions. Keep the questions coming though. I'm still planning to stay on here a little while longer. Don't you worry. Okay, so the next thing I was kind of wanting to show you guys is, what was it? The remote mode to unlock the start from, okay, I'm gonna do a couple more things in regular gSender first, and then I'm gonna take you over to Edge and show you some fun stuff in Edge. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I kind of gave a whole lot of context about it maybe about an hour ago. But basically, we have the main version of gSender that everyone is using, and then we have the Edge version of gSender. And that one is kind of like an open beta where you can choose to participate. It'll download a separate version of the program, and it'll have new features and abilities for it. And then they might not be as reliable as the regular features, but you get the opportunity to try them out, give us feedback, and possibly improve your setup based on the feedback you give us and the new features it has. So yeah, so I'm going to show you a couple more features and then I'll switch back over to that. So the first thing is you can see pulsing down here, this little button for start job. And that's because I stopped the job before it finished and it's trying to tell me, hey, you can click me. And when you click it, basically what this is it allows you to resume the job partway through. So imagine you were carving a piece of wood and something happened. You had to hit the e-stop or you lost power or something like that. Then what's cool is that you've got this feature here. You can just gSender will do its best to try to keep track of where you were in the job and then recommend to you the part you can start back from. But if you want to, you can also like open the Gcode file in a text editor and just go through the lines in the text editor and try to find where you might be. There's also some great apps out there. One of the ones I like to use is the NRay Node Gcode IO Web Gcode Simulator. If you just look up Gcode Simulator, this will show up. And what's cool about this is you can just kind of grab, let me grab a smallish file here. Nothing too big. And I'll just drag it onto here. And there we go. And then you can kind of go through the different lines here and you can see the little purple dot moving around. And this can kind of sometimes help you find out where you are in the job. Anyway, but yeah, you can just type in that value, hit the button down here, and it'll continue carving from where you last were. So that's a pretty handy feature. Another useful tip if you're trying to figure out what file you currently have loaded. So right now I've got the shoe shelf side 003.nc file loaded. If you hover over the path, it'll tell you the full path for where your file is located. So it's in my downloads folder right now. And that can be handy if I need to go locate it and make some changes or something like that. Also, obviously down here, it's giving me information on the size of the file and how long it's approximately going to run for. I can also switch this toggle here. And before I even run the file, I can increase or decrease my cutting speeds. So if I am worried because I'm running the job for the first time, I can reduce the cutting speeds first before I go and run it. And then that will start it off slow in advance so that I can be more sure that it's going to go all right when it's cutting. Let's see, what else is a fun thing? If you've never clicked this help button, this will take you to the documentation I've been showing you for gSender today, to our community forum and to our GitHub. So that's like a really easy thing to do. What else? If you're ever changing firmware settings, By the way, this is I'm resuming my section called Chris's the CNC Doctor Chris's tips, where I give you tips on how to use gSender to use your machine more effectively. This is another tip I'm giving you where if you're trying to change a setting and you're having difficulty finding it, there's a search bar down here. So if you want to search up like homing, this is going to give you a bunch of settings that have to do with homing. If you search up, let's say, spindle, now it's going to give me a bunch of settings that have to do with the spindle. So this is pretty handy. You can even, like, if you see a guide telling you, oh, change your $101 setting, then I can just type in 101 and it'll show me the 101 setting. So you can try that out if that's useful to you. In our calibration tool, this is something some of you might not have explored before, but if you click calibrate up here, this takes you to an area that not only allows you to kind of get an oversight on how your machine is currently working and diagnose some of the signals that are coming into it, but it's also got some tabs here that allow you to, for instance, create a wasteboard surfacing or a material surfacing pattern right inside of gSender, so you don't have to make this inside your CAM program. I'm just going to use all the settings that I have set up here and hit generate Gcode. And you can see here, it's generated a huge flattening area for a 200 by 200 piece of material. And you can change the pattern on it. You can change the starting location, any of this stuff. It generates all the Gcode. If you ever want to like take the Gcode and then copy it and edit it yourself, you can do that too. And then if you click the button here, it'll just bring that file in and you can now run it. And it's easy as that. There's also some other tabs here that show you how to go about the process of squaring your machine when you're first mounting it down. What movement tuning is sometimes if people are trying to do especially accurate stuff on their machine, or if you're setting up your machine for the first time and you're using, like, let's say you're using one of our boards on a DIY CNC, or let's say you're using a DIY board on a machine you bought from someone or anything like that. You basically need to know what is the relationship between the rotations of the motor, the stepper motor, and the movement of the machine. And this is going to walk you through the process of, you can select which axis you want to do it for, and then you can basically make a tape mark, and then like move the axis, let's say like 10 millimeters, and then you can measure how far it just moved, and let it know how far it just moved, and then that'll tell you how much you need to adjust it by to make more accurate movements on your machine. So that's handy too. Is there any other cool stuff? I think the only other thing I can think of right now is if any of you haven't checked out the job history and stats in the settings yet, it's pretty cool. It'll give you the number of jobs that you've run. It'll also give you like how long you've been running jobs for per machine. And then you've got this cool job table here. And this shows you a history of all of the jobs that you've run, when you ran them, how long they are, how long they ran for, and also if you let them run to the end or if you like had to abort them at some point. So that's really cool. And then these are where the maintenance reminders are, where you can see that if I were to be using my machine properly, I should be performing these maintenance tasks right now. You can go in and you can change these maintenance tasks. If you edit them, you can set a time range where between that range is when you should be doing that upkeep. and give yourself like a description and a name. And then when that time comes around, it'll give you an alarm. And so like, let's say I just finished cleaning the rails, and so I've now completed the task. I can now hit the little check mark here and reset the timer. And now it's going to give me a reminder another 10 hours from now to clean them again, unless I decide I don't want to be reminded every 10 hours, in which case I can change the range. Let's say I want to be reminded every 20 to 30 hours. There you go. Yeah, I think the only other thing I kind of wanted to show off here was there's some, for this version of gSender, there's some instances where some people have a problem where they mean to click like the go to and they click the Z0 instead. And then now you've lost your position, right? And that can sometimes be unfortunate, right? So we've got in the safety tab for the settings here, we've got a new setting. This actually was introduced several months ago, but it basically warns you when you're going to set your 0 so that you don't accidentally click it without meaning to. So if I turn that on and then I move my Z-axis and then I go to 0 it, it's going to give me a little confirmation window first. And if I hit no, it won't 0 it. And if I hit yes, it will. So if any of you have problems with that, I highly recommend you go and turn that on. On the alternate side of things, if you tend to probe things often and you want to take a risk that your touch plate works correctly and not have to do what I call like a sanity check every time. See, I tap the continuity together to check that it's working before I actually run the probing procedure. If you're tired of having to do that every time, there is also a setting there where if you go to probe, you can turn that testing requirement off. And that makes it so that anytime you go to probe, you can just start it right away and not have to touch it first to get to the next window. I like leaving it on because you never know when you're gonna have a loose wire or something like that. And so checking beforehand is always a good idea in my mind. All right. So I'm gonna put up the little transition screen and I'm gonna pull up gSender Edge. It's got a new interface and I'd love to show you guys what's going on with it and some of the features. So hang on tight for a sec. Let's see if there's any questions that have come in here. Chris in Guelph. I wonder if he's if he lives in Guelph, Ontario. Chris in Guelph asks, is it still feasible to add a laser to my Mark I? It works great, but it's 4 years old now. I don't see why not. I'm not sure if you're planning on using it as a dedicated laser machine, if that's what you're asking, or if you are just wanting to set it up as an accessory on your machine. Sorry, I was a bit distracted. But what I would say is that like even the older machines, the mechanics can run a long time. The electronics, if your board's still running fine, then they should run a long time too. I don't see any reason why it would just give up the ghost on you out of nowhere if it's already been running 4 years for you. And we made documentation for adding laser to our machines years ago. So yeah, I think you should be fine to go. It's your call at the end of the day, right? If you want to use it as a dedicated machine for doing lasering, sometimes it makes sense to just buy a diode and put it on your CNC. Sometimes it makes sense to to just buy a standalone machine, because usually the standalone machines can run faster. But there's some downsides where if you're doing just simple lasering jobs on your CNC, and then you don't have to realign anything between the two jobs, you can do it all in one. So that's like the main benefit. Yeah, so I guess that would be my advice to you. Yeah, and Grant kind of chimed in and answered that question from his experience, and so did Eddie as well. Mike Wentick says he's one of the lucky first 50. Oh, yeah, gSender loaded a long time ago. I probably could have pulled this up. Mike Wentick says he's one of the lucky first 50 to get the panel computer, and he really likes it. The only thing he noticed is that's different is when he rapid travels the machine, the motors are louder than before. Could this be a setting he's missing? Huh. I can't say, Mike. I'm not really sure. Perhaps it's something about the alt mill that I'm not familiar with, but I wouldn't expect you to get more noise using one computer over another. What I would probably say is perhaps your like jogging settings on the computer you were using before were different from the ones that are loaded on the panel computer. So maybe if you updated the panel computer's jogging settings, and by that I mean, well, I just closed it, but yeah, I can't show you the equivalent here, but these jogging values here, going and updating them in the settings, go to the gear settings in gSender and update them on the first menu there, and just check that they're equivalent between the two. And hopefully in that case, they would make the same amount of noise. That's what I would expect. Chris and Guelph asked another question. The newsletter said the price of Lightburn is going to go up. Is there a date on the price increase? That's a good question. I think I can't answer that because Andy's been kind of in the trenches working on that. But as you can see on our store, we don't currently sell any licenses because we're waiting for the, details of all this stuff to finish going through so that we can make the licenses available again. So yeah, it's kind of it's a work in progress right now, and it's not something like we're kind of just waiting on Lightburn to finish sorting out what they want the solution to be for this. So that's the best answer I can give right now. Destin asked, I think it might have been me that answered this on the Facebook page, but if you had a lot of solenoids that you wanted triggered through a program, how would you personally do it? Yeah, that was me. Yeah, that was me that answered that question. Because I think you were saying you wanted to trigger solenoids to have run a sectioned vacuum table, right? With different zones. Basically on the SLB, there's a decent number of outputs, but not enough to control, I think you were saying like 12 solenoids. So basically what I recommended is using a combination of outputs on the SLB to do like basically logic gating. What is it also called? Like matrix or something like that. On it so that you could turn less inputs into more outputs. Yeah, and I think that's the solution you'd want to go with to solve that problem. I just noticed my camera is slowly losing battery even though it's plugged in. That's crazy. Grant says, pizza time, Chris. Well done. Merry Christmas. Is it pizza time for you or me? Have you sent me a pizza? I'll take it. But you did remind me I did actually bring food. So I might eat a little bit of food. as a quick aside. Let me go grab that. I'll be right back, guys. But you can keep asking questions. I'll be back shortly. Okay. I've returned with some Filipino food. So, isn't that amazing? It's not pizza, but it's in a pizza box, so it's really all the same at that point. And I just realized I did not grab a utensil. That's all right. We can use the skewers. Bit of a finger food anyway. So I'm going to show you guys some of the cool things about gSender Edge as a way to try to encourage you to try it out. And just as a reminder, gSender Edge is Gcode sending software, but it is not specific to our machines. We try to make it as universal as possible. So if you're running any machine that uses Gerbil or Gerbil HAL, gSender should be able to run it, and so give it a shot if you'd like. But yeah, basically on this main screen here, this is kind of our new main screen that we've been working on designing. You've kind of got the jogging area on the right side. You've got the file handling in the bottom corner, and then your job running. And then you've kind of got this tabbed area in the bottom here, which has kind of like the overflow of other workflow options you might normally have. And then this is obviously your main file display area. You can connect up here and get more information about your machine. Over here is how you can set up shortcuts for doing the connection over a network or a keyboard or a joystick. And then over here is what allows you to toggle from the main interface to some of our other windows, which bear in mind as I'm showing this to you guys, this is still kind of a work in progress, but you can see the tools here. So for instance, the surfacing tool I was showing earlier, and obviously it's not available yet, and then the firmware tool as well. and this will look familiar to any of you guys if you've used it before. One of the cool features that we've implemented into this new version is that you don't actually need to specify what the firmware is that you're using between Gerbil and Gerbil HAL. It actually has the ability to automatically recognize what it is. So I just connected to a Gerbil board there, and you can see it's recognized it's a Gerbil board, and then this one should be Gerbil HAL, and it's recognized it as such too. So that's pretty neat, and it saves you a little bit of time when you connect between different devices. And if I go to the firmware tool here, you can see how this kind of looks as expected still, if this is something that you wanted to use. But one of the things that we're trying to move it all over into is this new, what we call configuration. And this is kind of like the new place where we're aiming to put all of the settings when you want to configure things for either gSender or for your machine. You can basically see it's like a long scrolling list of settings. It's obviously got some issues with it right now. But this is only our second version that we put out so far. But this kind of allows you to change your settings all in one place. For, let's say for Ethernet, you can just go to the Ethernet subheading and it'll give you all of the settings you need to change for it. So I think that's going to be pretty handy. And you still have the ability to search as you'd expect to. Some of the other cool things are, like, even when I'm in the configuration, I can still get access to, information about my machine or notifications on what's going on. Let me jog around a little bit here and get some errors in there. See, I've got some errors in there. And, guess they're not popping up here yet. Let me try to do something like this. Dang it. I can't change this value. Can I change this one? No, I can't. Let's see. How can I make an error happen? Let's go into here. Yeah, let's go into here. Touch this. And start probing. That should cause an error to happen. There we go. Okay, that popped up. Oh, okay, it's still missing a thing. But anyway, you can see it pops up, and then even if you're on another page, you can still have access to this sort of stuff, where you can unlock the machine and stuff while you're doing other things. So I think that's kind of cool. And so let me just load in a file here. Where's that same file I was running before? Shoe shelf one. There we go. Pretty cool. And you get some different information about the file here. And now the start from line is like not quite as hidden as it was before. The outline is not quite as hidden, and you kind of have all your controls in the center part here. So that's pretty useful. I also like the way that we've designed the zeroing. So it's like all the zero setting is on one side and all of the movement is on the other side. So it's less likely that you're going to mess them up. As far as some of the questions we got, Kenny says it does not fit well on a 720p screen. Yeah, that probably is true. I think in terms of making it work well for different size screens, that's still something that we're trying to work on. If you can post on the forum, let's say, so let me go back to the forum here. And in the gSender section, we've got one, oh no, this is not the right one. Let me go back. We've got a thread here talking about this new version that we just came out with. If you can stick a picture of what it looks like on your screen, if you can upload it here, that'd be great, because then we can get a point of reference and use that to make some updates. So that'd be great if you could do that for us, Kenny. And by the way, Dustin says that he thinks that the documentation on the CNC website is a gold mine of information, and he thinks we've done a great job. I really appreciate the feedback on that, Dustin. Thank you. We spend a lot of time trying to make sure there's plenty of information for people to read through. It becomes difficult, actually, because there's so much information that I was talking with someone about this on our Facebook group earlier today. There's so much information that it would be nice if you could just make really big buttons of like, hey, if you want to do this with your machine, here's a huge button that'll take you there. If you want to do this with your machine, here's a huge button that'll take you there. But there's just so many things you can do with these machines that we're still making new functions for these machines all these years later. And it's going to continue happening. I can guarantee you the CNC machines will continue becoming more capable over the coming years, that just writing down all the possible things they can do takes forever. There's so much stuff. It ends up so that if I try to just put big buttons on a page to take you everywhere, it would just be a page filled with big buttons, and then it would get lost. So it's hard to kind of document all the stuff that's going on there. But yeah, we're trying our best, that's for sure. Okay. Well, let's see. What do we want to do now? I've kind of shown you most of what I wanted to show you in Edge. Oh yeah, you can kind of minimize this sidebar here so that it takes up a little less space, so you have more screen space. I will say when we worked on this design as well, we've created a version of it that'll work in portrait mode, so that you can use vertical displays to run gSender too. I'm really excited about that, and hopefully that won't be too much longer before we are able to make that available. As well as we've made a design iteration to make this all work on the phone for remote connection as well. You'll find if you go to use Edge right now, there's going to be features missing if you use more of the advanced features, because it's just taking a while to bring everything over from the old code base to the new one. But most of the basic stuff is there. And actually, the gSender team, we have successfully run Edge to cut multiple projects at this point. So it is a usable piece of software. So I hope that doesn't scare you away. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus and give you something that's hard to use. So I'd encourage you to try it out if you'd like to. And as I said, let us know your feedback. All right. I'm going to go back to opening regular gSender now in case there's any other follow-up questions that I can answer that way. And we're just going to take another quick pause here. It seems like the question intake has really started to slow down again here. And also, I gotta say, the number of likes on the video has not changed since the last time I brought it up. So I'm a little bit upset about that. Not upset. How do I say? I if any of you who are watching right now hasn't liked the video yet, I'd appreciate it if you did. That's all I'll say. Um, but that's rude. One of the likes just went away. Who did that? Wow. I can't believe that just happened. Thank you. Thank you for adding some more back to compensate for whoever took it away. Yeah, I'm gonna leave another space of time here. I've had the live stream running for how long here? 3 hours 15. Pretty good. I want to make sure that I can answer you guys' questions and put on my my doctor's robe here and address any issues you might be seeing. But I need you guys to tell me what those problems are first. And right now, as far as I'm concerned, I've solved everyone's problems. So, like, if there's not enough people to hear that have problems, could you maybe send the link of the live stream to someone else you know that owns a CNC that is having problems so I can answer their problems, perhaps? I'm not really sure what else I can do here. Otherwise, you guys are just going to have to force me to stop the live stream early. I was planning to keep going. But if I don't have any other questions to answer, then I guess that's how things are going to play out, huh? But in all seriousness, though, I hope you guys are enjoying this kind of concept. If the response to it is good, and I can see plenty of you have already enjoyed it today, I'll plan to keep doing more of these sessions in the new year on occasion, so I can keep you guys updated on stuff that's going on with gSender. Here, let me pull up the video again here. Stuff that's going on with gSender, stuff that's going on with our company, and also other sorts of mechanical questions I can answer for you guys. As I said, I'm trying to make it so that these live streams are not machine specific. So you can ask me questions about any machine and I will do my best to answer it. I have seen a lot of stuff in my history of coming up on 10 years of working with CNCs in the hobby industry. I can't answer as much about industrial grade stuff, but I think most of the questions you guys might ask, I could probably answer for you. So that's kind of me putting my hat out into the ring. Oh, nice. We got some more questions that have come in. Datum CAD. Why don't we support Fluid NC? That's a good question, Datum CAD. Actually, it's a hard-ish question to answer, but it's also easy at the same time. So, of course, like the easiest answer to the question is just that doing like supporting a firmware that we don't actively sell hardware for just takes more time. That's like the easiest answer to the question. Now, the slightly more in-depth version of the answer to that question is that because we don't sell the hardware for it, it's hard for us to get good feedback on how those boards typically are used, like how the firmware typically is used, and make changes to gSender appropriately, because we're not working with Fluid NC based boards ourselves. It's hard for us to have an intuitive sense. So then there's a lot more reliance on community support and feedback to make sure that that's working correctly. And then the more in-depth version of the answer, or the most in-depth version of the answer that I can give is that, yeah, I mean, as you can see what I was showing off with gSender Edge, even though we have a small team working on this, we just have only so many hours in the day, where we are constantly asked for things, features, improvements, making things look nicer, all this stuff. And it's a lot of stuff to juggle. If you guys have visited the gSender page recently, you'll see that, where is it shown? Yeah, you'll see that it's now been downloaded over 1 million times. I think we have several thousand active users using gSender. And so at the end of the day, if we are always low on time, we kind of always have to be allocating our time to serve the existing user base the best we can. And we don't want to be like, if there's things in the air that they need, we don't want to be like dropping the ball and going and doing other stuff instead. But with all that being said, like I've told people that who have shown interest in having gSender support FluentNC, I've told them many times that in no way are we opposed to ever supporting it. I think it's one of those aspects though where it would just require a much more strong community effort from people that want gSender to support FluentNC. You know what I mean? Like we have put in, especially recently, we put in a pretty good backend to change how gSender behaves based on the controller it's connected to, whether it's Gerbil or Gerbil HAL. And that should have a reasonable groundwork that's been laid already so that you can, in that code, add in a third option of how would I support FluentNC if I'm connected to a FluentNC board. Yeah, so I think it's all possible to do. Trust me, if I had unlimited resources, I would have done it probably 2 years ago. But that's just not the reality of the situation. There's features that I think would be really cool to put into gSender. I think one of the most often asked features that is closest to the top of our list is that people want to be able to do 3D surface scanning to be able to input those points and then do like a contour cut following that surface scan that you've done. And that's most commonly used for PCB work. And I would love it to exist in gSender. There's several people that have told me that that is the last feature that's stopping them from using gSender as like their full-time Gcode sender. And I totally get why, because it's a pretty useful feature. And even though we have a great macro system built into gSender, it's just like not something that is easy to like futz about in your own, like in some other roundabout way, as opposed to like something like probing, where I would also like to put in more advanced probing procedures in gSender, as opposed to like the simplified version that we have right now. And you can use our current macro system to accomplish that. But yeah, surface scanning is not one of those things. So anyway, that's like something like that is something that's a lot higher on my priority list, I would say, than the FluentNC support. But yeah, it's hard to make calls like that when you have reduced resources and time, and so yeah. Yeah, I guess that would be my answer to that question. Sorry if I went on a bit of a tangent. I'm very passionate about like I really don't want to say no to people, especially people that are equally doing cool stuff in the CNC community. But yeah, that's sometimes that's the reality of the situation. Gary Graham was not aware of this live stream now, but love the help that you're doing and answering. Yeah, So I kind of said this near the start of the live stream, but things have been so busy at CNC Labs. So many products that we've been putting out, and there's been delays in delivery of parts, so that we can we've been delayed on our fulfillment and stuff like that. And there's plenty of other stuff we're trying to work on behind the scenes too. There's always upcoming things that we're working on. So between all these things, I was feeling like pretty confident that I've been wanting to do this sort of live stream for several months now. I had the idea originally in the summer, and I bought all the equipment and stuff, and so I was like, oh well, the end of the year's coming. There's no way this is going to work out. It's too busy. But I managed to throw some stuff together, and here we are. So happy to be helping out, and yeah, please take advantage of my time while I'm online, and you can ask me questions directly, because I'm not sure when the next time is that I'll be on here, but luckily, since I've already done a lot of the setup, it should make it easier next time. Next question by Rick Blizzard. Generic question: why is your CNC better than one something CNC? That's a great generic question. So I'll go back to the wide view camera here. Give me a sec. The lower quality view. So I've got a long mill behind me. I don't have an alt mill in this room, but I'm sure you guys have seen pictures of what that looks like. So the thing about the term better, like what makes a better CNC, is that there's a lot of I guess considerations that go into it. And for the most part, I would have to strongly agree with some of the videos that you can find that have been recently produced by some of the popular CNC content creators, where they point out that there's a lot more to the machine. Like one of the most important things about the machine are things like the customer support and the community that's around it, and the guidance that you get on how to set it up. And I'd have to strongly agree on that, because it kind of shows that it's kind of like the full system that you want to have working for you when you go to buy a machine, so that you're not left on your own at any point in time. Now, I can't say definitively how our machine compares, like on a quantitative level, in terms of those aspects to other machines that are on the market. And it is a lot easier for me to give a more quantitative response about the rigidity of the machine. And I can say on that side of things, as far as we've measured against, other popular machines on the market, the Onefinity, or sorry, like other machines on the market, like Onefinity, Xcarve, Shapeoko, stuff like that. The long mill is in a sorry, I'm a bit tired. I've been live streaming for a while, but I'm gonna push through. Maybe I will probably stop the live stream in another like 15, 20-ish minutes. The long mill is in a position where it is, like, I can't guarantee that it's more rigid than, like when I'm talking about the long mill in particular, I can't guarantee that it's more rigid than some of those other machines. But what I can guarantee is that for the type of person that would be buying it, the rigidity that the long mill offers is plenty. If you're looking for a very rigid machine that you're going to run slowly because you're new to CNC and you're not going to trust your machine, the rigidity that the long mill offers is plenty for that speed that you're going to be running it at. So if you combine that with the fact that the long mill is, like, in some cases half the price of other machines, then that really shows that we've put an effort towards making a more budget-friendly machine. But it still comes with all of the great software, customer support, and community that we have around it. Now, if you look at the alt mill instead, I think the alt mill is one of those situations where you can directly compare it one-on-one to basically all the other machines on the market that you might buy that are more expensive than the long mill. You can compare them to the alt mill instead. And I would be pretty confident saying that it is more robust than the other offerings you can find, and still at a similar or lower price point. And then, of course, it comes with all the same community support and other aspects that we offer. So that would kind of be my answer to that. And just to expand on it a little bit more, like, that isn't me saying that there aren't other good options out there, depending on who you are and what you're looking for in a machine. And that's why we try to like help people out in understanding what they're looking for in a machine. Because like if you're, for instance, like a super DIY person, it's very possible to build a machine that's similarly rigid or perhaps more rigid than a long mill, with just some determination, self-sourcing of parts, and electronics, and like a little bit of electronics knowledge. That's something that many people have done and many people will continue doing, even if the best machines are out there, because that's the best way to save money. And then there's always going to be people on the other side that will always have more money to spend. And in that case, you can just buy the best that's available, and then none of the lower priced machines will ever be able to compete, because to a certain degree, you can just get way more speed and features that a lower price machine will have to save some money on, one way or another. So yeah, so that'd be my answer to that question. Let's go back in the close-up cam here. Dustin asked, I was hoping to have my SLB hidden away with all the wiring and junk and just power cycling it through a surge protector while leaving the SLB switch permanently in the on position. Is this okay? I think if you're not power cycling it too often, then yeah, I think that's fine. I don't see there being too much of an issue between power cycling the onboard switch and the power supply itself. So that would be the best advice I could offer on that. Thanks for the feedback, Rick and Eddie, on the support that you found from our team. I appreciate your kind words on that. Dustin asked, what's my favorite hold down method? And what bits do I recommend for what application? Wow, that's a really great generic question. Thank you, Dustin. You really have thought this out. My favorite hold down method is actually one that, okay, I'll start with my second favorite, is actually using screws, and just either screwing straight through the material or putting a screw like directly on the edge of the material, and using, like if you're using woodworking screws or deck screws, like the countersunk edge, if you screw it right next to the material, the countersunk edge will kind of like grab the lip on the edge of the material and pull it down in. So that's like my second favorite. My most favorite hold down method is actually one that we were working on developing a couple years ago, and we never got to releasing. And I've been planning to try to get back to releasing it. But it's very similar to like the cam clamps that rotate and come in from the side to side hold the material. And the reason I like that the most is because it's like the least intrusive holding method where it just comes into the side of the material. It's very unlikely you're going to cut into it or run into it accidentally. And it holds pretty strongly. And so it's useful for a lot of different types of cutting and jobs that you might be doing. Obviously, it doesn't work in some situations, like if you're using really thin material. Sometimes you just have to tape that down, for instance, or glue it down or something like that. But yeah, I would say that's my favorite. What bits do I recommend for what application? Maybe I won't get into that in this live stream, but maybe the next one. But I will say, from the standpoint of having generic bits to use across the board, I tend to make more functional items when I'm cutting stuff on the CNC. And when I'm not making functional stuff, I really like making like 3D topology stuff. Because of that, my go-to bits tend to be an 1/8 inch downcut, a 1/4 inch downcut, and a 1/4 inch tapered ball nose are my favorite ones. I think if I made more signs, I would probably toss a V-bit in there. And I think if I did more plywood, I'd probably do more compression. I'd toss a compression bit in there. But yeah, that would be my favorite stuff based on the things that I tend to make. But we've actually had it in the works for a while, making a revised version of our cutting tool suggestion page in our resources, where the intention is to actually have a more directive and visual list on tools that we would recommend based on the projects that you're making. So that people could get a better understanding of like what sort of bits they might want to buy based on the things they're thinking on making. So Datum CAD just left some notes for me when I was talking to him about Fluid NC support in gSender, saying that he's going to keep using it as long as it works well enough, and hopefully it can gain official support one day. Yeah, I totally agree. I hope it can. And I'm happy it's been working well enough for you that you can still use it. I'm glad to hear about that, and I'm glad that you say it's leaps and bounds ahead of other Gcode centers you use. I'm glad to hear that. Like, I really, one of the things that we try to do with CNC is we really try to put our efforts into areas that we think can have a big impact. So if it's something that's like already done decently by someone else, then there's no point reinventing the wheel. That's one of the reasons like we haven't made our own CAD CAM software, even though we've been around for a while, and most other people that have been around as long as us have, tried that themselves. And it's just because enough people already are doing them pretty well that we don't feel like it's necessary to get involved there. But yeah, the Gcode Sender aspect was something we felt could really be improved upon in various ways, and so that's what we've tried to do with gSender. So Dustin says, any thoughts on when auto squaring may be supported? I did answer that earlier on. I don't know when that would be in the live stream. It's been a long time now. It's coming up on 4 hours. But the long and short of it is that I can make a version of it that is unofficially supported. So if you send me a private message through whatever means, or you contact us on our website and you just leave a note and say that you want to get in contact with me about auto squaring, then it'll get to me, and then I can send you custom firmware to run it if you would like, as like unofficial firmware that I can give you so that you can do it if you would really like it. And if you want to wait until it's officially supported, then you'll have to keep waiting a while longer. Jerry, hey Chris, I just got done with a file, so I connected another laptop with Ethernet, and I still have no Ethernet. You're gonna have to give me some more information, Jerry, and it's possible that maybe communicating through the live stream is not the best method for the problem that you're having today, and that's fine too. I would highly recommend in that case that you just reach out to us on our contact page on the website. I'll put the link in the chat for you, and you'll be able to have someone on our team get back to you, as soon as tomorrow, and or you can call us up too. Our phone number's on there. Let's see. Yeah, Eddie says he was able to get a long mill from us, plus the laser beginner kit, dust boot, 0 blocks, plus VAT, plus shipping, and it still ended up being a third the price of other machines offered in Europe. Yeah, that has been my experience too. I think there's, and I really hope the market changes. I'm not trying to, pretend like we're the only machine that exists. I actually would prefer that there were other good options out there that people could use or purchase when it comes to machines. But I'm hoping at the very least that by the fact of the machines that we have, that we make available, that people can see that it's possible to make this sort of stuff available in the hobby CNC market, that there will be other people that can pop up and make similar offerings too. Because that way everyone wins, right? The Fuzz asks, do you think a spindle is too heavy for the Mark 1? It depends on the size spindle. Generally, for the Mark 1, we weren't able to officially endorse using a spindle because of the weight, and because of course the Mark 1 is a little less optimized. But there were people that set it up successfully on their Mark 1s, and we did do a write-up as well for it. As long as you get ideally like a lighter spindle, like a 65 millimeter diameter spindle, like a 1.5 kilowatt. And alongside that, I can also say that there have been people that have modified their Mark 1s and even their Mark 2s with like spring relief to help offset the weight of the spindle so that the Z-axis can keep running as expected. Yeah, there's options that exist out there depending on what you're planning on doing. It is possible to do it, so it just depends on your level of comfort, I would say. Michael Erickson, alt mill with spindle kit. Why does the spindle not switch to laser and back again on jobs unless I cut power to the spindle first? I can work around the issue, but it's annoying. I use gSender to switch between the H100 and the laser using the drop down. Oh, okay. Michael, the issue that you're having, I believe, is actually in the firmware on the board. It is very annoying. I agree. I'm sorry that you're having that issue. I'm working to try to address it. I've been working for a while now with Terrier, who is the person that created the Gerbil Hau firmware, and we're trying to make a new version of the SLB firmware that is up to date with all of the new changes and fixes and stuff like that, and I'm hoping that that'll get rid of that issue. So stay tuned. It'll be something that will be still maybe a couple months away, unfortunately, but it's something that we're trying our best to work on. Dustin says, thanks, Chris. I've been watching since the beginning. I really appreciate your time. Thanks a ton. Have a good Christmas. Thank you, Dustin. Yeah, you have a great Christmas too. I think it's about time for me as well to log off for the day. I've had a solid nearly 4-hour stream with you guys. I really appreciate all the questions that you asked. If no one showed up, I of course would have just been sitting here on my own, not being able to impart any of my knowledge on any of you. Thanks for your lively comments. Thank you for asking great questions too. I hope that anyone else that might watch this video later, that it's helped you out as well. I'll say one last time, if this helped you out, leave a like on the live stream, on the video, so other people can see it. The likes really go a long way towards just showing the video and recommending it to other people. And if you're seeing this live stream after the fact, definitely leave a comment if you have any suggestions on what you'd like to see if I were to do this again. I can have like a more, I can try to have some more physical or visual components to it if you want. I can, what else could I do? Do some more demonstrations perhaps. I could always set it up in another one of our rooms and maybe do some live cuts if you'd like. I'm just trying to do it in a way that is the beneficial for the most number of people. So yeah, just let me know your thoughts on that. But yeah, outside of that, I hope you guys all have a great Christmas time and a great New Year. As I said, most of our team is going to be taking time off. So, you know, everyone should be spending time with their loved ones around this time of year, or with yourself. You know, enjoy some alone time perhaps. I know I'm going to be taking some nice naps, that's for sure. Yeah, prep yourself for the new year, because I think next year will hopefully be a great one to come, eh? If I do this again, I'll hopefully be able to give you more advanced notice that the live stream is going to come up instead of just running it on the day. Sorry that that kind of came up last minute, but thank you all for joining me nonetheless. I appreciate your time. And yeah, if you are hoping for any other information about stuff, you can always reach out and contact us. Check out our blogs and stuff like that. Andy and our team spend a lot of time trying to keep you as up to date as possible on things that our company has been getting up to. So yeah, I think that's about everything I can think of right now. And I guess I'll see you guys later. I'll put you back on our fun cutting transition screen. And yeah, I think I'll stop the stream there. See you guys later.